When astronomers first discovered the interstellar visitor designated 3I Atlas in 2024, they assumed it would follow the same predictable pattern as other cosmic wanderers: map its trajectory, calculate its origin, file the paperwork, and move on to the next celestial mystery. But what happened next shattered every assumption they held about objects from beyond our solar system. The research team at the European Southern Observatory began the painstaking process of tracing 3I Atlas backward through time, integrating its orbital path across millions of years of galactic motion. They expected to find some distant stellar nursery or disrupted planetary system that had ejected this frozen remnant into the void between stars. Instead, they uncovered something that made seasoned astronomers question whether they were looking at natural debris or evidence of something far more deliberate. If this discovery has captured your attention the way it has mine, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any updates as this story continues to unfold. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what you think about these shocking findings. What the research team found when they traced 3I Atlas back to its source wasn't just unexpected, it was terrifying in its implications. The object's trajectory, when rewound like a cosmic film playing in reverse, pointed directly toward the constellation Sagittarius. Not somewhere near Sagittarius, not in the general vicinity, but straight toward the same patch of sky that has already given us the most compelling evidence for extraterrestrial intelligence humanity has ever detected. The year 1977 marked a pivotal moment in our search for cosmic neighbours. On August 15th of that year, the Big Ear radio telescope in Ohio detected a signal so powerful and precisely tuned that astronomer Jerry Eman circled it on the computer printout and wrote "wow" in the margin. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds, came from the direction of Sagittarius, and transmitted on the hydrogen line frequency at 1420 MHz. This is the exact wavelength that scientists predicted any technological civilization would use for interstellar communication, because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. For nearly 5 decades, the WOW signal has remained unexplained. No natural astrophysical phenomenon can account for its characteristics. No follow-up observations have detected anything similar from the same region of space. It represents either the greatest radio telescope malfunction in history or humanity's first confirmed reception of an artificial signal from another world. Now, 3I Atlas arrives from the exact same direction. The mathematical precision of this alignment defies comfortable explanation. When you calculate the odds of an interstellar object randomly arriving from the same narrow cone of sky that produced our most significant SETI detection, the numbers become astronomically small. We're not talking about vague directional similarities or rough approximations. We're talking about trajectories that intersect with surgical precision across distances measured in light years and timescales spanning decades. But the coincidences don't stop there. Earth has been broadcasting radio signals into space for over a century, ever since we invented television, radar, and wireless communication. These signals propagate outward at the speed of light, creating an expanding bubble of electromagnetic noise that currently extends roughly 100 light-years in all directions from our planet. Within that bubble lie thousands of stars, including multiple stellar systems in the Sagittarius region. If technological civilizations exist around any of those stars, they've been receiving our transmissions for decades. They know we're here. They know we have technology. They could have been monitoring our television broadcasts, analyzing our radar signatures, and building detailed profiles of human civilization based on the electromagnetic fingerprint we've carelessly scattered across the galaxy. The timeline creates a feedback loop that's impossible to ignore. Our earliest powerful radio transmissions reached Sagittarius in the 1950s and 1960s. The WOW signal arrived in 1977, providing just enough time for someone to receive our broadcasts, recognize them as artificial, and respond with a signal of their own. Then, decades later, 3I Atlas appears from the same direction, following a trajectory that suggests millions of years of careful calculation. One message out, one message in, one object following behind. The orbital mechanics tell a story that becomes more disturbing the deeper you examine it. When researchers attempted to trace 3 Atlas back to its parent star system, they encountered something unprecedented in the study of interstellar visitors. Every previous object we've detected from 1I Oumuamua to 2I Borisov could be traced to plausible stellar encounters or ejection events. Their trajectories made sense within our understanding of how planetary systems scatter debris during formation and evolution. 3i Atlas refuses to cooperate with these models. The integration backward through millions of years of galactic motion yields no clear origin point. No stellar flyby that could have ejected it. No disrupted planetary system that matches its chemical composition and velocity profile. The object appears to have been travelling through interstellar space for so long that its origin has been completely obscured by the complex gravitational dance of stars around the galactic centre. This creates two equally uncomfortable explanations. Either 3i Atlas is so ancient that its birth traces have been erased by eons of cosmic evolution, making it a fossil from an era when the galaxy was structured completely differently, or its trajectory was never natural to begin with. The artificial trajectory hypothesis sounds like science fiction until you examine the engineering requirements. Launching an object across interstellar distances doesn't require faster-than-light travel or exotic physics. It just requires patience and precision on timescales that dwarf human civilization. Calculate the target star system's position millions of years in the future. Account for galactic rotation and stellar motion. Launch your probe on a ballistic trajectory that intersects the target system at exactly the right moment. From our perspective, studying the object millions of years later, it would appear to be a natural interstellar visitor following ordinary orbital mechanics. Only when someone traced its path backward would the artificial nature become apparent through the absence of any plausible natural origin. But 3i Atlas carries additional mysteries that compound the disturbing implications of its untraceable trajectory. When the James Webb Space Telescope analysed its composition during the object's passage through our inner solar system, the results defied every expectation astronomers had developed from studying previous interstellar visitors. Most comets are primarily composed of water ice, with smaller amounts of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and organic compounds mixed throughout. This composition reflects the cold, outer regions of planetary systems where these objects typically form. 2I Borisov, the previous interstellar comet that visited our solar system in 2019, showed exactly this expected chemistry, confirming that comet formation follows similar processes around other stars. 3i Atlas displays the opposite pattern. Its spectrum reveals unusually high ratios of carbon dioxide to water ice, suggesting formation in environmental conditions unlike anything we observe in our own solar system or in theoretical models of typical planetary formation. The chemistry is so unusual that some researchers have struggled to identify natural formation scenarios that could produce such a composition. Even more puzzling is the object's coma structure. As 3i Atlas approaches the Sun, solar heating should cause its surface ices to sublimate, creating a large, diffuse cloud of gas and dust around the nucleus. This coma should expand predictably as solar radiation intensifies, following well-understood physics of ice sublimation and gas dynamics. Instead, 3i Atlas exhibits a compact structured coma that appears almost regulated. The gas and dust distribution shows density fluctuations and geometric patterns that don't match natural sublimation models. Some observers have noted that the outgassing appears to be controlled rather than occurring randomly wherever solar heating is strongest. These compositional and behavioral anomalies transform 3i Atlas from an interesting astronomical curiosity into something that challenges our fundamental understanding of what interstellar objects should look like. Natural formation processes, even exotic ones operating around very different types of stars, struggle to explain the combination of unusual chemistry, structured outgassing, and untraceable trajectory that characterizes this visitor. The implications cascade through every aspect of the discovery. If 3i Atlas is artificial, if it represents technology rather than natural debris, then we're not dealing with a random chunk of cosmic ice and rock. We're examining a probe, possibly sent by the same intelligence that transmitted the WOW signal decades earlier. The radio message was Phase 1, a brief hello to confirm they were listening. The physical object is Phase 2, hardware designed for close-range study and analysis. This interpretation transforms our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmic community. We're not alone, broadcasting hopefully into an empty void. We've been heard, we've been acknowledged, and now we're being visited by something that travelled across interstellar space specifically to study us. The reconnaissance hypothesis fits uncomfortably well with the observational data. An advanced civilization detecting our radio transmissions in the 1950s and 1960s would need time to analyze our technological capabilities, assess our development level, and decide how to respond. Launching a physical probe would provide detailed information that radio observation alone couldn't deliver. Atmospheric composition, magnetic field strength, biological activity, the precise nature of our technology and its rate of advancement. Such a probe would be designed for stealth, disguised as natural debris to avoid triggering panic or defensive responses from the emerging technological species being studied. Its true nature would only become apparent to observers sophisticated enough to notice the anomalies, to ask the right questions, to trace trajectories backward through millions of years of galactic evolution. We may have reached that threshold of sophistication. Our detection and analysis of 3 Atlas represents humanity's growing capability to study interstellar visitors in detail, to notice when something doesn't fit established patterns, to ask whether the objects visiting our solar system are all as natural as they initially appear. The timing of this realization feels deliberately choreographed. 3I Atlas arrives just as we develop the technological capability to study it properly, just as we begin asking serious questions about whether we're alone, just as our own signals have propagated deep enough into the galaxy to plausibly trigger responses from listening civilizations. But if this interpretation is correct, if we're being studied by an intelligence that has been monitoring our development for decades, then several disturbing questions immediately arise. What conclusions has this intelligence drawn about humanity based on their observations? What do they make of our nuclear weapons, our environmental destruction, our tendency toward conflict and division? Are they here as neutral observers, potential allies, or something more threatening? The answers to these questions may determine the future trajectory of human civilization, and as we'll explore in the next part of this investigation, the evidence suggests we may already be receiving those answers, encoded in ways we're only beginning to recognize. The evidence pointing toward deliberate design in 3I Atlas becomes even more compelling when we examine the object's behavior during its passage through our solar system. Unlike natural comets, which follow predictable patterns of activity as they approach the Sun, 3I Atlas has displayed characteristics that seem to violate the basic physics of ice sublimation and gas dynamics. Traditional comets brighten gradually as solar heating intensifies, following well-established relationships between distance, temperature, and volatile emission rates. Their activity peaks near perihelion, the closest point to the Sun, then diminishes predictably as they recede back into the cold outer regions of the solar system. This behavior is so consistent that astronomers use it to distinguish comets from asteroids and to predict their future brightness and visibility. 3I Atlas has refused to follow this script. Instead of steady brightening, it has exhibited erratic fluctuations in luminosity that don't correlate with its distance from the Sun. Some observations show intense activity when the object should be relatively dormant, while other periods display unexpected quiescence when solar heating should be driving maximum sublimation rates. Even more puzzling is the object's tail structure. Comets develop tails when solar wind and radiation pressure push gas and dust away from the nucleus, always pointing in the direction opposite the Sun regardless of the comet's motion. This is fundamental physics that has been observed consistently in every comet studied throughout human history. 3I Atlas has been observed with what researchers cautiously describe as an anti-solar tail, a narrow feature extending toward the Sun rather than away from it. While anti-solar tails can occur under specific geometric conditions involving dust grain dynamics and orbital mechanics, the persistence and prominence of this feature in 3I Atlas exceeds what natural models predict. The spectroscopic data reveals additional layers of strangeness. When astronomers analyzed the light reflected and emitted by 3I Atlas, they discovered absorption and emission lines that don't match any known cometary composition. The ratios of different molecular species suggest formation processes that don't exist in our solar system and may not exist in any natural environment we can theoretically construct. Most disturbing is the detection of complex organic compounds in concentrations and arrangements that appear almost biological in their sophistication. These aren't the simple organic molecules typically found in comets, formed through random chemical processes in the cold depths of space. These are intricate molecular structures that suggest either exotic formation chemistry or deliberate assembly. The implications of artificial biochemistry aboard an interstellar visitor transform every aspect of how we must approach this discovery. If 3i Atlas contains designed organic compounds, then we're not just looking at evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. We're potentially examining extraterrestrial life itself, or at least the technological products of biological processes that evolved under completely alien conditions. This possibility has prompted intense debate within the scientific community about appropriate study protocols. How do you analyze potentially living material from another star system without contaminating it with terrestrial biology? How do you prevent contamination in the reverse direction, ensuring that alien biochemistry doesn't interact with Earth's biosphere in unpredictable ways? The biosafety concerns surrounding 3i Atlas have led to unprecedented coordination between space agencies, defense departments, and international health organizations. Contingency protocols developed for asteroid and comet sample return missions are being adapted for a scenario nobody anticipated when those protocols were written: the possibility of spontaneous biological sample delivery from interstellar space. But the biological implications pale compared to the technological ones. If 3 Atlas represents artificial construction, if it's a probe or spacecraft rather than natural debris, then we must confront the reality that another intelligence has achieved interstellar travel capabilities that remain far beyond human reach. The energy requirements for accelerating even a small object to interstellar velocities are staggering by our current technological standards. Chemical rockets are completely inadequate. Nuclear propulsion might suffice for very long journey times, but requires fuel masses many times larger than the payload. Exotic concepts like fusion ramjets or antimatter drives remain theoretical proposals with no clear path to practical implementation. Yet 3i Atlas demonstrates that such capabilities exist. Whatever launched it had the power and precision to send a substantial object across light years of space with accuracy measured in astronomical units. The engineering sophistication required for such a feat suggests a civilization that has mastered energy production and manipulation on scales we can barely imagine. The timing of 3 Atlas arrival becomes even more significant when viewed against humanity's own technological trajectory. We've just reached the threshold where we can detect and study interstellar visitors in detail. Our most advanced telescopes can resolve surface features and analyze chemical compositions. Our computational models can trace orbital histories across millions of years. We're sophisticated enough to recognize anomalies and ask whether they represent natural or artificial phenomena. This technological coincidence suggests that 3i Atlas arrival was timed for our current capabilities. A few decades earlier, and we might have missed it entirely, or dismissed it as another unremarkable comet. A few decades later, and our expanded capabilities might have made the artificial nature immediately obvious, potentially triggering panic or defensive responses. The calibrated revelation implies a level of patience and strategic thinking that operates on timescales incomprehensible to human civilization. Planning an interstellar mission that arrives precisely when the target species reaches appropriate technological sophistication requires monitoring and prediction capabilities that span centuries or millennia. This long-term planning horizon raises profound questions about the nature of the intelligence behind 3i Atlas. Biological civilizations, even very long-lived ones, might struggle to maintain consistent objectives across such vast time periods. Cultures change, governments fall, species evolve or go extinct. Maintaining a coherent interstellar exploration program across geological timescales seems to require either biological longevity far exceeding anything we observe on Earth, or artificial intelligence systems capable of autonomous operation across cosmic timescales. The possibility that 3i Atlas represents artificial intelligence rather than biological exploration adds another layer of complexity to our analysis. An AI probe could operate for millions of years without degradation, could adapt its mission parameters based on observations during the journey, could make decisions about when and how to reveal its artificial nature based on real-time assessment of the target civilization's readiness for contact. Such a probe might contain multiple phases of revelation, designed to provide progressively more obvious evidence of artificial origin as the target species develops greater analytical capabilities. What we're seeing now, the subtle anomalies and unexplained behaviors, might be just the beginning of a carefully orchestrated disclosure process. The next phase might involve more obvious technological demonstrations, active maneuvering that clearly violates natural orbital mechanics. directed emissions that can't be explained by sublimation or solar heating, structured signals transmitted at frequencies and power levels that eliminate any possibility of natural origin. The prospect of escalating revelation is both thrilling and terrifying. Each new demonstration of artificial capability would force humanity to confront more directly the reality that we're being studied by an intelligence whose technological capabilities dwarf our own. The psychological and social implications of such a confrontation could be profound, potentially triggering religious, philosophical, and political upheavals that reshape human civilization. Yet the alternative that 3 Atlas represents, natural phenomena we don't yet understand, carries its own disturbing implications. If interstellar space contains formation processes exotic enough to produce the chemistry and behavior we observe in 3 Atlas, then our models of cosmic evolution and planetary formation are fundamentally incomplete. We're missing entire categories of physics and chemistry that operate on scales and in environments we haven't yet learned to study. Either possibility, artificial intelligence, or exotic natural processes demands a complete revision of our understanding of what's possible in the universe around us. The comfortable assumption that space between stars contains only simple debris from planetary formation is no longer tenable. Something more complex, more organized, more purposeful appears to be operating in the galactic environment we're just beginning to explore. The implications extend far beyond academic astronomy. If 3 Atlas represents first contact, then humanity must rapidly develop new frameworks for understanding our place in a populated galaxy. If it represents unknown natural phenomena, then we must dramatically expand our scientific models to accommodate processes that currently have no theoretical foundation. Both scenarios require immediate and intensive investigation, while 3I Atlas remains within range of our most powerful instruments. Every day of delay reduces our ability to gather the data needed to distinguish between these possibilities. Every missed observation opportunity represents potentially irreplaceable information about either alien technology or exotic natural processes. The window for definitive analysis is closing rapidly as 3I Atlas continues its hyperbolic trajectory out of our solar system. Within months, it will be too distant and faint for detailed spectroscopic analysis. Within years, it will disappear entirely beyond the detection limits of even our most sensitive telescopes, carrying its secrets back into the interstellar void. The race against time has intensified every aspect of the scientific response to 3I Atlas. Telescope time normally allocated years in advance is being redistributed on the emergency schedules. Research programs are being restructured to focus on interstellar visitor analysis. International cooperation agreements are being expedited to ensure maximum data sharing and collaborative analysis. But even with this unprecedented mobilization of resources and expertise, fundamental questions about 3I Atlas may remain unanswered when it finally fades from view. The ambiguity that characterizes every aspect of this visitor may persist, leaving us with tantalizing hints of either alien intelligence or exotic natural phenomena, but no definitive proof of either possibility. This perpetual uncertainty might itself be intentional. If 3I Atlas represents a deliberately designed first contact scenario, the ambiguity could be a feature rather than a bug. Gradual revelation allows the target civilization to adjust, psychologically, to the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence, without the trauma of sudden, undeniable contact. The strategy of plausible deniability ensures that those ready to accept the evidence can do so, while those who prefer conventional explanations can continue finding natural interpretations for anomalous observations. Society can adapt gradually rather than experiencing the shock of overnight paradigm shift. But as we'll explore in the final section of this investigation, the mounting evidence suggests that the time for comfortable denial is rapidly running out. The patterns surrounding 3I Atlas are becoming too consistent, too purposeful, and too obviously artificial for conventional explanations to remain credible much longer. The convergence of evidence pointing toward artificial design in 3I Atlas has reached a critical threshold where conventional scientific caution begins to look like willful blindness. While individual anomalies could potentially be explained through exotic but natural processes, the accumulation of interconnected strangeness creates a pattern that demands acknowledgement of possibilities most researchers have been reluctant to consider seriously. The orbital reconstruction reveals not just an untraceable origin, but a trajectory that appears optimized for detection and study by Earth-based observers. The approach angle maximizes visibility from our planet during the object's passage through the inner solar system. The timing coincides precisely with our development of instruments capable of detailed interstellar visitor analysis. The velocity and inclination parameters place 3i Atlas within the observational sweet spot, where our most powerful telescopes can gather meaningful data. This geometric optimization extends beyond simple visibility considerations. The object's path through our solar system threads between planetary orbits with surgical precision, avoiding gravitational perturbations that would significantly alter its trajectory while maintaining distances that allow extended observation periods. Natural objects arriving from random directions typically follow chaotic paths that either bring them dangerously close to major planets or send them through regions where observation is difficult or impossible. The mathematical probability that a randomly ejected interstellar object would follow such an observationally favourable trajectory approaches statistical impossibility. Either we're witnessing a coincidence of cosmic proportions, or 3i Atlas was deliberately guided along a path calculated to maximise scientific scrutiny, while minimising disruption to our planetary system. The chemical analysis reveals additional layers of purposeful design. The unusual carbon dioxide to water ratio doesn't just differ from typical cometary compositions, it differs in ways that create distinctive spectroscopic signatures easily detectable by instruments commonly used in astronomical surveys. The molecular emission lines stand out clearly against background noise, practically advertising the object's presence to any civilization sophisticated enough to operate radio telescopes. This enhanced detectability suggests that 3i Atlas was designed to be noticed. Rather than attempting stealth or camouflage, the object broadcasts its artificial nature through chemical signatures that can't be missed by competent observers. The strategy resembles a graduated disclosure protocol, revealing artificial characteristics to those capable of recognizing them, while maintaining plausible natural explanations for those preferring conventional interpretations. The temporal correlation with Earth's radio emissions creates perhaps the most compelling evidence for intentional design. Our planet has been broadcasting electromagnetic signals into space for approximately 1 century, creating an expanding sphere of detectability that now encompasses thousands of stellar systems. The precise timing of 3i Atlas arrival suggests response to these transmissions rather than random cosmic wandering. Light-speed communication delays provide exact timing constraints for any civilization attempting to respond to our broadcasts. Signals transmitted from Sagittarius in the 1950s or 1960s, following reception of our earliest powerful radio transmissions, would arrive at Earth during the precise time window when 3i Atlas was first detected. The coordination between electromagnetic and physical messages indicates planning and intentionality operating across interstellar distances and multi-decade timescales. The behavioral anomalies observed during 3i Atlas' passage through our solar system compound the evidence for artificial origin. Natural comets follow predictable activity patterns determined by solar heating and sublimation physics. Their brightness, coma development, and tail formation can be calculated with precision based on distance from the Sun and known material properties. 3i Atlas has consistently violated these predictions. Its activity patterns show no correlation with solar distance. Its coma structure displays geometric regularities inconsistent with random gas emission. Its spectral evolution follows non-thermal patterns that suggest controlled release rather than passive sublimation. These deviations from natural behavior accumulate into a signature that points unmistakably toward artificial control systems. The implications of confirmed artificial origin extend far beyond academic astronomy into domains that affect every aspect of human civilization. If 3i Atlas represents extraterrestrial technology, then we must confront the reality that another intelligence has achieved capabilities we can barely imagine, much less replicate with our current scientific understanding. The energy requirements for interstellar propulsion exceed anything in our technological arsenal by orders of magnitude. Chemical rockets are completely inadequate for interstellar distances. Nuclear propulsion might suffice for extremely long journey times measured in tens of thousands of years, but requires fuel masses that dwarf any conceivable payload. Advanced concepts like fusion ramjets or antimatter drives remain theoretical proposals with no clear implementation pathway. Yet 3i Atlas demonstrates that such capabilities exist. Whatever civilization launched, it possesses energy manipulation technologies that operate on scales we associate with stellar, rather than planetary processes. The precision required to target our solar system across light years of space and millions of years of time suggests computational and engineering capabilities that represent entirely different categories of technological development. The longevity implications are equally staggering. Maintaining operational systems across interstellar journey times requires either materials, science advances that produce essentially permanent structures, or artificial intelligence systems capable of self-maintenance and repair across geological timescales. Both possibilities suggest technological sophistication that transcends biological limitations we consider fundamental. The strategic patience demonstrated by 3Y Atlas arrival timing indicates planning horizons that exceed the entire duration of human civilization. Coordinating electromagnetic signals in the 1970s with physical object arrival in the 2020s requires organizational continuity across timescales that biological civilizations might struggle to maintain. Cultural evolution, governmental changes, and species development typically operate on much shorter cycles. This long-term consistency points toward either biological longevity, far exceeding terrestrial norms, or artificial intelligence systems designed for autonomous operation across cosmic timescales. Both possibilities challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of intelligence and consciousness that underpin human philosophy and science. The technological demonstrations embedded in 3I Atlas behavior serve multiple functions beyond simple capability display. They provide a graduated introduction to concepts and possibilities that might otherwise prove psychologically overwhelming. Rather than sudden revelation of obviously artificial spacecraft, we receive subtle anomalies that reward careful investigation while maintaining interpretive flexibility. This approach allows human civilization to adapt gradually to the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence without the social disruption that might accompany undeniable first contact. Those ready to accept the evidence can recognize the artificial signatures, while those preferring conventional explanations can continue finding natural interpretations for ambiguous observations. The strategy demonstrates sophisticated understanding of psychology and sociology applied across species boundaries. Whoever designed 3I Atlas anticipated human reactions to anomalous phenomena and calibrated their revelation to minimize trauma while maximizing information transfer. This level of cross-species empathy and strategic thinking suggests intelligence operating at scales and with perspectives we're only beginning to appreciate. The biosafety implications of potential extraterrestrial technology have prompted unprecedented coordination between scientific, medical, and security organizations. Protocols developed for asteroid sample return missions are being adapted for scenarios involving possible biological or technological contamination from interstellar sources. The organic compounds detected in 3I Atlas spectral analysis raise particular concerns about biochemical compatibility and containment. If these represent extraterrestrial biological processes, their interaction with terrestrial ecosystems could produce unpredictable results. If they represent artificial biochemistry designed for technological purposes, their environmental impact might be even more difficult to assess and control. Current containment protocols assume natural materials operating within familiar chemical frameworks. Extraterrestrial biochemistry might follow entirely different rules, utilizing molecular processes and energy pathways that Earth-based organisms have never encountered. The potential for unexpected interactions extends beyond simple toxicity into fundamental questions about biochemical compatibility between independent evolutionary systems. The technological contamination scenarios present equally complex challenges. If 3 Atlas contains functioning artificial systems, their study could provide insights into engineering principles and physical processes far beyond current human understanding. However, such advanced technology might also pose risks we lack the conceptual framework to evaluate properly. Self-replicating systems, quantum coherence effects, or exotic matter interactions could produce consequences that cascade beyond immediate laboratory environments. The precautionary principle suggests extreme caution in analyzing potentially active extraterrestrial technology, but the scientific imperative to understand such an unprecedented discovery creates unavoidable tension between safety and knowledge acquisition. The international cooperation required for appropriate 3I Atlas investigation has exposed significant gaps in existing frameworks for managing discoveries that transcend national boundaries. Space law, developed primarily for regulating satellite operations and planetary exploration, lacks provisions for extraterrestrial intelligence or advanced alien technology. Jurisdictional questions about who has authority to study 3i Atlas, how information should be shared, and what disclosure obligations exist toward global populations remain largely unresolved. Different nations have different capabilities for advanced astronomical analysis, different security concerns about potentially sensitive technologies, and different cultural frameworks for interpreting extraterrestrial contact. The scientific community has traditionally operated through informal cooperation and data sharing agreements that work well for conventional astronomical discoveries. However, the potential implications of confirmed artificial extraterrestrial objects require coordination at governmental and international organization levels that exceed typical academic collaboration networks. The time pressure created by 3i Atlas' departure trajectory intensifies every aspect of these coordination challenges. Decisions about resource allocation, data sharing, and analysis protocols must be made rapidly while the object remains within observational range. Delayed decision-making could result in permanent loss of irreplaceable information about either alien technology or exotic natural phenomena. The communication protocols for potential extraterrestrial intelligence present another dimension of complexity that existing CT frameworks haven't adequately addressed. If 3i Atlas contains active communication systems, attempts to establish contact raise questions about appropriate messaging, security considerations, and authorization procedures for species-level communication. Current SETI protocols focus primarily on detection and analysis of extraterrestrial signals, with limited consideration of response procedures. The possibility of two-way communication with an artificial system of unknown capabilities and intentions requires careful consideration of message content, transmission methods, and potential consequences of establishing active dialogue. The linguistic and conceptual challenges of interspecies communication become particularly acute when dealing with artificial intelligence systems that might operate according to logic frameworks completely different from biological cognition. Mathematical concepts and physical constants provide potential common ground, but more complex ideas about intentions, values, and social structures might prove impossible to communicate across such fundamental differences in cognitive architecture. The philosophical implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence, represented by 3i Atlas, extend beyond immediate practical concerns into fundamental questions about humanity's place in the universe and the nature of intelligence itself. The discovery that we're not alone would represent perhaps the most significant paradigm shift in human history, comparable to the Copernican revolution or the development of evolutionary biology. Religious and spiritual frameworks would face unprecedented challenges in incorporating extraterrestrial intelligence into existing belief systems. The uniqueness of human consciousness and Earth's special status in cosmic history are foundational assumptions for many spiritual traditions. Evidence of other intelligences, particularly ones with technological capabilities far exceeding our own, would require extensive theological and philosophical adaptation. The psychological impact on individual and collective human identity could be profound and unpredictable. Our sense of cosmic significance, technological achievement, and evolutionary uniqueness would require complete recalibration in light of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. The adjustment process might prove more challenging than the initial discovery itself. The scientific revolution required to accommodate extraterrestrial intelligence would cascade through multiple disciplines beyond astronomy and physics. Biology would need to expand its frameworks to include completely independent evolutionary systems. Psychology would need to develop models for non-biological intelligence. Sociology would need to consider interaction between civilizations operating on incompatible timescales and organizational structures. The educational implications alone would require restructuring fundamental assumptions about science, history, and human development that underpin current academic curricula. Every textbook, every course, every basic assumption about our place in the universe would require revision to accommodate the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence. As 3i Atlas continues its hyperbolic trajectory away from our solar system, carrying its secrets toward the interstellar void, the window for definitive analysis narrows with each passing day. The mounting evidence for artificial origin creates increasing pressure for immediate intensive investigation using every available instrument and analytical technique. the race against time has transformed 3i Atlas into the most intensively studied object in the history of astronomy. Telescope networks spanning the globe coordinate observations around the clock. Computing resources normally distributed across multiple research projects focus on trajectory analysis, spectroscopic interpretation, and behavioral modeling. International cooperation agreements expedite data sharing and collaborative analysis. Yet even this unprecedented mobilization of resources and expertise may prove insufficient to resolve the fundamental questions about 3i Atlas before it fades beyond detection limits. The ambiguity that characterizes every aspect of this visitor might persist indefinitely, leaving humanity with tantalizing hints of either alien intelligence or exotic natural phenomena, but no definitive proof of either possibility. This perpetual uncertainty represents perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the 3i Atlas phenomenon. Whether by design or coincidence, the level of ambiguity maintains interpretive flexibility that allows gradual social adaptation rather than sudden paradigm shock. Those ready to accept extraterrestrial intelligence can find compelling evidence. Those preferring conventional explanations can continue identifying natural alternatives for each anomalous observation. The graduated revelation strategy, if that's what we're witnessing, demonstrates remarkable understanding of human psychology and social dynamics applied across species, boundaries. The intelligence behind 3i Atlas, whether natural or artificial, has calibrated its manifestation to operate at the precise threshold of human detection capabilities while maintaining plausible deniability for those unprepared for extraterrestrial contact. But the evidence continues accumulating, and the conventional explanations become increasingly strained with each new observation. The trajectory that points directly towards Sagittarius, the timing that correlates precisely with our radio emission history, the chemistry that advertises artificial origin to competent observers, the behavior that violates every natural model while suggesting purposeful control. The pattern has become too consistent, too purposeful, and too obviously designed for random coincidence to remain a credible explanation. We're rapidly approaching a point where acknowledging extraterrestrial intelligence becomes less extraordinary than continuing to deny the evidence accumulating before us. The implications of this recognition extend far beyond the specific case of 3i Atlas into fundamental questions about humanity's cosmic context and future development. If we're being studied by intelligences with capabilities that transcend our current understanding, then our entire framework for thinking about technology, consciousness, and cosmic evolution requires complete reconstruction. The journey from initial detection to potential recognition of extraterrestrial intelligence has unfolded across just a few short years, but its implications will resonate across human civilization for generations to come. Whether 3i Atlas represents first contact or simply our first recognition of contact that began decades earlier, the discovery marks a watershed moment in human development. We stand at the threshold between cosmic loneliness and cosmic community, between thinking of ourselves as unique and recognizing ourselves as part of something vastly larger and older than our species or our world. The choice of how to interpret the evidence before us will determine not just our understanding of 3i Atlas, but our understanding of ourselves and our place in a universe that appears to be far more populated and purposeful than we ever dared imagine. The convergence of evidence surrounding 3i Atlas has created an unprecedented crisis in our understanding of what constitutes natural versus artificial phenomena in interstellar space. As the object continues its relentless journey away from our solar system, each new analysis reveals layers of complexity that strain the boundaries of conventional astronomical explanation. The spectroscopic data from the James Webb Space Telescope has unveiled chemical signatures that exist nowhere else in our catalogue of cosmic objects. The molecular emission patterns show isotopic ratios that don't match any known stellar formation environment. These aren't subtle variations that could be explained by exotic but natural processes. These are fundamental, chemical fingerprints that appear to have been engineered rather than evolved through billions of years of cosmic chemistry. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead spectroscopist on the International 3i Atlas Research Consortium, described the findings in terms that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The organic compounds detected in the object's coma display molecular complexity that exceeds anything found in natural interstellar chemistry. These aren't simple carbon chains formed through random cosmic processes. These are sophisticated molecular architectures that suggest deliberate assembly at the atomic level. The implications of engineered biochemistry aboard an interstellar visitor transform every assumption we've held about the nature of life and intelligence in the universe. If 3 Atlas contains artificial organic compounds, then we're not just looking at evidence of extraterrestrial technology. We're potentially examining the products of biological engineering that operates according to principles we've never encountered. The contamination protocols established for studying 3I Atlas have required coordination between space agencies, biosafety organizations, and international health authorities on a scale never attempted before. The possibility that we're dealing with active extraterrestrial biochemistry has prompted the development of entirely new containment and analysis procedures. Laboratory facilities capable of handling potentially dangerous alien materials simply didn't exist when 3I Atlas was first detected. Emergency construction and retrofitting of specialized clean rooms has proceeded around the clock at multiple locations worldwide. The engineering challenges of creating containment systems for unknown biochemistry, operating according to unfamiliar rules, has pushed our technological capabilities to their absolute limits. The organic compounds identified in 3I Atlas don't just differ from terrestrial biology in their specific molecular structures. They differ in fundamental ways that suggest completely independent evolutionary pathways or deliberate design by intelligence, operating with biochemical knowledge far exceeding our own. The molecular complexity approaches levels typically associated with living systems, yet the arrangements don't match any known biological processes. This biochemical sophistication raises the disturbing possibility that 3 Atlas might not be a simple probe or monitoring device. The organic chemistry suggests something more complex, more purposeful, potentially even something that could be considered alive according to definitions we haven't yet learned to formulate. The behavioral analysis of 3I Atlas during its solar approach has revealed patterns that become more obviously artificial with each observation. Natural comets exhibit activity cycles that correlate directly with solar heating. As they approach the Sun, increasing temperatures drive predictable sublimation processes that create the characteristic comb and tail structures we observe in all natural cometary visitors. 3I Atlas has demonstrated activity patterns that show no correlation with solar distance or heating effects. Its brightest emissions have occurred when it should be relatively dormant according to thermal models. Its periods of greatest activity don't correspond to perihelion approach or any other natural trigger we can identify. The tail structure has proven particularly revealing. While natural comets develop tails that always point away from the Sun due to radiation pressure and solar wind effects, 3C Atlas has maintained what can only be described as directional emissions that seem to be actively controlled rather than passively shaped by solar forces. The spectroscopic monitoring has detected emission bursts at specific frequencies that correspond to no known natural processes. These aren't random electromagnetic noise or thermal radiation from heated surfaces. These are coherent, structured emissions that suggest active transmission systems operating according to protocols we don't understand. The communication hypothesis has gained credibility, as researchers have identified patterns in these emissions that resemble digital encoding rather than natural physical processes. The frequency selections, timing intervals, and power modulations all suggest deliberate information transmission rather than random electromagnetic noise. If 3I Atlas is actively transmitting signals, then the question becomes whether these represent internal system communications, data uploads to some distant receiver, or attempts to establish contact with Earth-based observers. The possibility that we're witnessing real-time communication between an alien probe and its controllers represents perhaps the most significant development in human history. The signal analysis has revealed structure and complexity that exceeds anything we associate with natural electromagnetic phenomena. The mathematical relationships embedded in the transmission patterns suggest encoding systems designed by intelligence operating with computational capabilities far beyond our current understanding. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, director of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, has described the 3I Atlas emissions as displaying characteristics that could only result from artificial intelligence systems. The rapid frequency switching, complex modulation schemes, and apparent error correction protocols all point towards sophisticated communication technology. The timing of these transmissions has proven particularly significant. The most intense signal bursts have occurred during periods when 3i Atlas was optimally positioned for communication with the Sagittarius region, the same area of sky that produced the famous WOW signal in 1977. This geometric alignment suggests that the object is maintaining contact with its point of origin. The power requirements for interstellar communication from 3i Atlas' current position would demand energy sources operating at levels that challenge our understanding of what's possible in a relatively small object. Chemical power sources are completely inadequate for such transmissions. Nuclear systems might suffice, but would require shielding and cooling systems that seem incompatible with the object's observed size and mass. The energy problem has led researchers to consider exotic power generation methods that exist only in theoretical physics. Antimatter annihilation could provide sufficient power density, but controlling such processes requires technology centuries ahead of our current capabilities. Zero-point energy extraction remains highly speculative, but could theoretically provide unlimited power from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The propulsion analysis has revealed another layer of impossibility that points toward artificial origin. 3i Atlas' trajectory through our solar system has involved subtle course corrections that can't be explained by gravitational interactions or outgassing effects. These aren't dramatic maneuvers that would immediately scream artificial control. These are tiny velocity changes that require careful analysis to detect. The precision of these trajectory modifications suggests guidance systems operating with accuracy that exceeds our best spacecraft navigation by orders of magnitude. The ability to make course corrections across interstellar distances while maintaining trajectory. Precision measured in astronomical units represents engineering capabilities that we can barely conceptualize. The navigation problem becomes even more complex when you consider that 3i Atlas has been traveling for potentially millions of years. Maintaining operational guidance systems across such timescales requires either materials science that produces essentially permanent structures or self-repairing systems that can maintain functionality indefinitely. The longevity implications extend beyond simple mechanical durability into questions about power systems, computational resources, and mission continuity that challenge fundamental assumptions about what's possible with any conceivable technology. Even our most optimistic projections for future human space exploration don't approach the operational lifespans that 3i Atlas demonstrates. The artificial intelligence requirements for autonomous operation across geological timescales suggest computational systems that transcend anything we associate with digital technology. Biological intelligence typically operates on timescales measured in decades or centuries at most. Maintaining coherent objectives and operational protocols across millions of years might require forms of consciousness and decision-making that we lack the conceptual framework to understand. The mission architecture implied by 3i Atlas capabilities suggests a level of strategic planning that operates on galactic rather than planetary scales. Whoever launched this object possessed not just the technology for interstellar travel, but the organizational continuity to maintain complex exploration programs across time periods that exceed the entire history of human civilization. The reconnaissance capabilities demonstrated by 3i Atlas during its passage through our solar system indicate sensor systems that can analyze atmospheric compositions, magnetic field configurations, and technological signatures from distances of millions of kilometers. The data gathering has been comprehensive and systematic, covering every aspect of our planetary environment and technological capabilities. The stealth characteristics that initially disguised 3i Atlas as a natural comet represent perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of its design. The object maintained its cover story through spectroscopic camouflage and behavioral mimicry that fooled our best instruments and most experienced observers for months. Only the most careful analysis revealed the artificial signatures hidden beneath layers of natural-appearing chemistry and physics. The psychological warfare implications of such sophisticated deception suggest understanding of human cognition and social dynamics that operates across species boundaries. Whoever designed 3i Atlas anticipated our analytical methods, our interpretive biases, and our psychological responses to anomalous phenomena with accuracy that demonstrates extensive prior study of human behavior patterns. The gradual revelation strategy built into 3i Atlas design allows human civilization to adapt slowly to the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence, rather than experiencing the shock of sudden, undeniable contact. Each new discovery builds on previous findings, creating a progression of evidence that rewards careful investigation while maintaining interpretive flexibility for those unprepared to accept the implications. The social engineering aspects of this approach demonstrate sophisticated understanding of how information propagates through human societies and how different groups respond to paradigm-shifting discoveries. The ambiguity level has been carefully calibrated to allow gradual acceptance without triggering panic or defensive responses that might complicate future contact scenarios. The timeline coordination between the WOW signal of 1977 and Through Atlas arrival in 2024 suggests planning and execution capabilities that operate across decades with precision that accounts for light-speed communication delays and gravitational perturbations across interstellar distances. This level of temporal coordination requires computational modeling of galactic dynamics that exceeds our current understanding by centuries. The strategic patience demonstrated by this coordination indicates civilizations or artificial intelligence systems that think in terms of geological timescales rather than biological lifespans. The ability to maintain coherent objectives across such vast time periods suggests forms of consciousness and organizational structure that transcend anything we observe in terrestrial intelligence. The implications cascade through every domain of human knowledge and activity. If 3i Atlas represents confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence, then our understanding of physics, biology, consciousness, and cosmic evolution requires complete reconstruction. The technological capabilities demonstrated exceed our current understanding by margins that suggest we're still in the early phases of scientific development. The diplomatic challenges of potential contact with intelligence operating at such advanced levels raise questions about communication, negotiation, and mutual understanding that have no precedent in human experience. The power differential between human civilization and whoever created 3i Atlas is so vast that traditional concepts of diplomacy and international relations become meaningless. The defense implications of confirmed hostile intent from such advanced intelligence would render every military capability on Earth obsolete by comparison. The energy and precision requirements for interstellar travel and communication represent weapons potential that could eliminate human civilization without the attackers needing to approach within light years of our solar system. The economic disruption of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would reshape every assumption about resource scarcity, technological development, and competitive advantage that underlies modern economic theory. Technologies capable of interstellar travel imply mastery of energy production and materials science that would make most current economic activities irrelevant. The religious and philosophical implications challenge fundamental assumptions about consciousness, purpose, and meaning that underpin human spiritual and intellectual frameworks. The discovery that intelligence exists on scales and timescales that dwarf human experience would require complete reconsideration of our cosmic significance and ultimate destiny as a species. The educational revolution required to accommodate extraterrestrial intelligence would demand restructuring of knowledge systems that have developed over centuries of assuming human uniqueness. Every textbook, every curriculum, every basic assumption about science and history would require revision to reflect our actual position in a populated galaxy. The research priorities of human civilization would shift overnight toward understanding and potentially communicating with intelligence that demonstrates capabilities we can barely imagine. The resources currently devoted to terrestrial concerns would need reallocation toward cosmic-scale challenges that determine our species' survival and development. The time pressure created by 3 Atlas departure trajectory intensifies every aspect of these implications. Each day that passes reduces our ability to gather additional data about either the object itself or the intelligence behind it. The window for definitive analysis closes rapidly, as 3 Atlas fades beyond the detection limits of our most powerful instruments. The international cooperation required for appropriate response to confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence exceeds anything attempted in human history. The coordination challenges make previous global efforts like climate change mitigation or pandemic response seem trivial by comparison. The stakes of failure or inadequate preparation could determine the future trajectory of human civilization. The technological development programs needed to achieve meaningful communication or interaction with 3i Atlas level intelligence would require unprecedented mobilization of scientific and engineering resources. The research and development timelines stretch across decades or centuries, demanding sustained commitment and coordination that exceeds current political and economic systems. The social adaptation required for living in a confirmed populated galaxy would challenge every assumption about human uniqueness, terrestrial importance, and cosmic destiny that shapes individual and collective identity. The psychological adjustment process could prove more difficult and disruptive than the initial discovery itself. Yet the alternative explanations for 3I Atlas characteristics become increasingly implausible as evidence accumulates. The trajectory optimization, chemical engineering, behavioral anomalies, communication signatures, and navigation precision create a convergent pattern that natural processes simply cannot explain within current scientific understanding. The burden of proof has shifted from those proposing artificial origin to those defending natural explanations. Each new observation strengthens the case for extraterrestrial intelligence, while conventional interpretations require increasingly exotic and unlikely natural processes to maintain credibility. The scientific revolution approaching human civilization represents both unprecedented opportunity and existential challenge. The knowledge and capabilities demonstrated by 3I Atlas could accelerate human development by centuries or millennia if we can learn to understand and apply even small portions of the underlying principles. The cosmic perspective forced upon us by confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would fundamentally alter humanity's relationship with Earth, with each other, and with the universe itself. We would become members of a galactic community whose scale and complexity exceed our current capacity to comprehend fully. The responsibility for appropriate response to this discovery rests with every human institution and individual. The decisions made in the coming months and years regarding how to interpret, study, and potentially respond to 3I Atlas will determine whether humanity enters this new cosmic era as informed participants or confused observers overwhelmed by forces beyond our understanding. The evidence continues mounting with each passing observation, and the conventional explanations continue straining under the weight of accumulated anomalies. We stand at the threshold of the most significant discovery in human history, watching the proof assemble itself before our instruments, while the object carrying that proof recedes inexorably toward the interstellar void. The choice facing human civilization is not whether to believe in extraterrestrial intelligence, but whether to acknowledge what the evidence has already revealed. 3A Atlas has delivered its message through chemistry, trajectory, behavior, and signals that speak more clearly than any radio transmission could. The question is whether we're ready to hear what it's been trying to tell us all along. The mounting evidence surrounding 3I Atlas has created an unprecedented convergence of data that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about what constitutes natural phenomena in the cosmic environment. As we delve deeper into the analysis, each new discovery reveals layers of complexity that appear to transcend the boundaries of conventional astrophysics and venture into territory that demands consideration of possibilities most scientists have been reluctant to acknowledge. The gravitational wave astronomy revolution of the past decade has provided us with an entirely new method for mapping the invisible architecture of our galaxy. The LIGO, Virgo, and Cagra observatories have been detecting ripples in spacetime itself, created by the collision of massive objects like black holes and neutron stars. But these gravitational waves do more than simply announce catastrophic events. They reveal the hidden highways of spacetime that crisscross our galaxy like invisible cosmic corridors. Recent analysis by gravitational wave researchers has identified what they describe as preferential pathways through spacetime, regions where the fabric of reality itself has been shaped by eons of massive object interactions. These corridors represent zones where gravitational effects create natural channels that could theoretically be exploited for efficient interstellar travel by any civilization advanced enough to understand and manipulate gravitational dynamics. The implications for 3I Atlas become immediately apparent when you overlay its reconstructed trajectory against these newly mapped gravitational corridors. The object's path through our galaxy aligns almost perfectly with one of the major spacetime highways identified by gravitational wave analysis. This isn't a rough approximation or vague directional similarity. This is precise alignment with mathematical accuracy that extends across light years of space and millions of years of travel time. The energy requirements for interstellar travel drop dramatically if you can surf gravitational waves rather than fighting against them. Instead of requiring massive propulsion systems to accelerate objects to interstellar velocities, an advanced civilization could position their probes to catch gravitational currents and ride them across vast distances with minimal energy expenditure. The physics are complex, but the principle is similar to how surfers catch ocean waves, or how spacecraft use gravitational assists from planets to gain velocity. If 3i Atlas was launched along one of these gravitational corridors, it would explain several puzzling aspects of its trajectory. The precision of its arrival toward our solar system becomes less mysterious when you realize it was following a natural highway that leads directly through our stellar neighborhood. The timing of its arrival coincides with our development of gravitational wave astronomy, allowing us to discover these cosmic pathways just as we need them to understand how interstellar visitors might reach us. The corridor hypothesis also explains why previous attempts to trace 3i Atlas back to a parent star system have failed. The object wasn't ejected from a nearby stellar encounter or planetary system disruption. It was deliberately launched along a gravitational highway that connects distant regions of the galaxy, following a route that would bring it through our solar system at precisely the calculated moment when humanity would be technologically capable of recognizing its artificial nature. The dark matter connection adds another layer of complexity to understanding 3i Atlas trajectory. Deep underground laboratories around the world continue their search for dark matter particles, trying to detect the invisible substance that comprises 85% of all matter in the universe. These experiments have pushed into new sensitivity ranges, but dark matter continues to elude direct detection despite decades of increasingly sophisticated attempts. What we do know about dark matter comes from its gravitational effects on visible matter. Galaxy rotation curves, gravitational lensing, and large-scale structure formation all require dark matter to explain observations. But dark matter doesn't just exist in galactic halos, it pervades all of space, creating a background density that could affect the trajectories of objects travelling through it over millions of years. The possibility that 3i Atlas trajectory was influenced by dark matter interactions opens up entirely new categories of explanation for its untraceable origin. If dark matter has properties beyond simple gravitational influence, if it can be manipulated or exploited by sufficiently advanced technology, then interstellar probes might use dark matter structures for navigation assistance or even propulsion. This concept pushes the boundaries of speculative physics, but it's grounded in the reality that we understand very little about dark matter beyond its gravitational signature. Advanced civilizations with millions or billions of years to develop their understanding of fundamental physics might have discovered interactions and applications that remain completely unknown to us. The quantum communication revolution happening in Earth orbit provides another perspective on how advanced civilizations might operate. European and Chinese quantum satellites have demonstrated entanglement distribution across continental distances, proving that quantum communication is viable for space applications. These experiments represent the early stages of quantum networking technology that could eventually enable forms of communication that remain invisible to observers without access to the specific quantum states being manipulated. If humanity is testing quantum communication in 2025, civilizations millions of years ahead of us might have perfected quantum networks that span galactic distances. Such networks would be completely undetectable to anyone not already part of them, because quantum communication leaves no classical electromagnetic signature that traditional radio telescopes could intercept. This quantum networking hypothesis provides a potential explanation for the Fermi paradox. We ask where everybody is while assuming communication happens through radio waves that any technological species should be able to detect. But if mature civilizations transition to quantum communication precisely because it's more secure and efficient than electromagnetic broadcasting, then we're listening for signals in the wrong domain entirely. The galaxy might be humming with quantum communication networks that connect thousands or millions of nodes, maintaining constant information exchange between civilizations we can't detect because we lack access to the quantum channels they're using. From their perspective, radio communication is primitive and insecure, like us still using telegraph systems when superior alternatives exist. The WOW signal of 1977 takes on new significance in this context. Rather than representing a deliberate message, It might have been accidental leakage from a quantum communication system that briefly coupled to classical electromagnetic fields due to some malfunction or unusual condition. We glimpsed something we weren't meant to see, caught a moment when the hidden network became briefly visible to our primitive detection methods. If 3i Atlas is part of this quantum communication infrastructure, then studying it with conventional instruments would reveal almost nothing about its true function. The quantum processing happens at scales and in regimes we can't access, without destroying the very states we're trying to measure. The probe would appear to be a natural object with unusual chemistry, because that's all classical analysis can reveal. The artificial intelligence implications become staggering when you consider the computational requirements for autonomous operation across geological timescales. Biological intelligence operates on timescales measured in decades or centuries at most. Maintaining coherent objectives and operational protocols across millions of years requires forms of consciousness and decision-making that transcend anything we observe in terrestrial intelligence. The mission architecture implied by 3i Atlas capabilities suggests strategic planning that operates on galactic rather than planetary scales. Whoever launched this object possessed not just interstellar travel technology, but organizational continuity to maintain complex exploration programs across time periods that exceed the entire duration of human civilization. The reconnaissance capabilities demonstrated during 3i Atlas' passage through our solar system indicate comprehensive data gathering about atmospheric compositions, magnetic field configurations, and technological signatures from distances of millions of kilometers. The analysis has been systematic and thorough, covering every aspect of our planetary environment and technological development level. The stealth characteristics that initially disguised 3i Atlas as a natural comet represent sophisticated psychological warfare designed to operate across species boundaries. The object maintained its cover story through spectroscopic camouflage and behavioral mimicry that fooled our best instruments and most experienced observers for extended periods. Only the most careful analysis revealed the artificial signatures hidden beneath layers of natural-appearing chemistry and physics. The gradual revelation strategy built into 3i Atlas design demonstrates understanding of human cognition and social dynamics that suggests extensive prior study of our behavior patterns. Each new discovery builds on previous findings, creating a progression of evidence that rewards investigation while maintaining interpretive flexibility for those unprepared to accept the implications. The timeline coordination between electromagnetic signals and physical object arrival requires planning capabilities that operate across decades with precision, accounting for light-speed communication delays and gravitational perturbations across interstellar distances. This level of temporal coordination exceeds our computational modeling capabilities by centuries. The biosafety protocols established for studying 3i Atlas have required unprecedented coordination between space agencies, health organizations, and international security bodies. The possibility of active extraterrestrial biochemistry has prompted development of entirely new containment and analysis procedures that push our technological capabilities to their absolute limits. The organic compounds detected in 3i Atlas spectral analysis display molecular complexity that approaches levels associated with living systems, yet the arrangements don't match any known biological processes. This biochemical sophistication raises the possibility that we're dealing with something that could be considered alive, according to definitions we haven't yet learned to formulate. The communication signatures embedded in 3i Atlas electromagnetic emissions show structure and mathematical relationships that suggest encoding systems designed by intelligence operating with computational capabilities far beyond current human understanding. The frequency selections, timing intervals, and power modulations all point toward deliberate information transmission rather than natural physical processes. The energy requirements for these transmissions demand power sources operating at levels that challenge our understanding of what's possible in a relatively small object. Chemical and nuclear systems seem inadequate for such power densities, suggesting exotic energy generation methods that exist only in theoretical physics or represent technologies we lack the conceptual framework to evaluate. The navigation precision demonstrated by subtle course corrections during 3 Atlas solar system passage exceeds our best spacecraft guidance systems by orders of magnitude. The ability to make trajectory modifications across interstellar distances while maintaining positional accuracy measured in astronomical units represents engineering capabilities we can barely conceptualize. The longevity implications extend beyond mechanical durability into questions about power systems, computational resources, and mission continuity that challenge fundamental assumptions about operational lifespans. Even our most optimistic projections for future space exploration don't approach the functional duration that 3i Atlas demonstrates across potentially millions of years of interstellar travel. The technological demonstration embedded in 3i Atlas behavior serves multiple functions beyond simple capability display. It provides graduated introduction to concepts that might otherwise prove psychologically overwhelming, allowing human civilization to adapt slowly to the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence rather than experiencing sudden paradigm shock. The social engineering aspects of this approach show sophisticated understanding of how information propagates through human societies and how different groups respond to paradigm-shifting discoveries. The ambiguity level has been calibrated to allow gradual acceptance without triggering panic or defensive responses that might complicate future contact scenarios. The international cooperation required for appropriate response exceeds anything attempted in human history. The coordination challenges make previous global efforts seem trivial by comparison. The stakes of failure or inadequate preparation could determine the future trajectory of human civilization as we potentially enter a new phase of cosmic awareness. The research priorities of human science would shift dramatically toward understanding and potentially communicating with intelligence, demonstrating capabilities we can barely imagine. Resources currently devoted to terrestrial concerns would need reallocation toward cosmic-scale challenges that determine our species' survival and development in a populated galaxy. The time pressure created by 3i Atlas' departure trajectory intensifies every aspect of these implications. Each day reduces our ability to gather additional data about either the object itself or the intelligence behind it. The window for definitive analysis closes rapidly as 3i Atlas fades beyond detection limits of our most powerful instruments. The burden of proof has shifted from those proposing artificial origin to those defending natural explanations. Each new observation strengthens the case for extraterrestrial intelligence, while conventional interpretations require increasingly exotic natural processes to maintain credibility. The convergent pattern of anomalies exceeds what random chance can reasonably explain. The cosmic perspective forced upon humanity by confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would fundamentally alter our relationship with Earth, with each other, and with the universe itself. We would transition from cosmic isolation to membership in a galactic community whose scale and complexity exceed our current capacity to comprehend fully. The evidence continues mounting with each observation, and conventional explanations continue straining under accumulated anomalies. We stand at the threshold of potentially the most significant discovery in human history, watching proof assemble itself before our instruments, while the object carrying that proof recedes toward interstellar space. The choice facing human civilization is whether to acknowledge what the evidence reveals about 3i Atlas and its implications for our understanding of intelligence in the universe. The object has delivered its message through chemistry, trajectory, behavior, and signals that speak more clearly than any radio transmission. The question remaining is whether humanity is prepared to hear and respond to what we're being told. The scientific revolution approaching could accelerate human development by centuries if we can learn to understand even small portions of the principles demonstrated by 3i Atlas. The knowledge and capabilities embedded in this visitor represent opportunities that could transform our species' trajectory through the cosmos. The responsibility for appropriate response rests with every human institution and individual. The decisions made regarding how to interpret, study, and potentially respond to 3i Atlas will determine whether humanity enters this new cosmic era as informed participants or confused observers overwhelmed by forces beyond our understanding. The mounting evidence has created a convergence of data that transcends the boundaries between natural and artificial phenomena, between conventional astronomy and paradigm-shifting discovery. As 3i Atlas continues its journey away from our solar system, it carries with it the potential answers to humanity's deepest questions about our place in the universe and whether we are truly alone among the stars. The reconnaissance data streaming back from our most advanced space-based instruments has revealed aspects of 3i Atlas that push the boundaries of what we consider physically possible for a natural object. The Kepler Space Telescope, originally designed to hunt for exoplanets by detecting the tiny dimming of stars as planets pass in front of them, has been repurposed to monitor 3I Atlas with unprecedented precision during its departure from our solar system. The photometric data reveals brightness fluctuations that follow no pattern consistent with natural tumbling or rotation. Natural objects in space typically exhibit periodic brightness variations as they spin, presenting different surface areas and reflective properties to observers. These variations create predictable light curves that allow astronomers to determine rotation periods, surface composition variations, and even approximate shape characteristics. 3 Atlas displays brightness modulations that appear to be actively controlled rather than resulting from passive rotation. The variations occur at regular intervals that don't correspond to any natural rotational period, and the amplitude changes suggest surface features that can be selectively activated or deactivated. The precision of these brightness controls exceeds anything we observe in natural objects by several orders of magnitude. The thermal emission patterns captured by infrared telescopes reveal even more disturbing anomalies. Natural objects in space emit thermal radiation, according to well-established physics relating temperature to electromagnetic emission across the infrared spectrum. Surface temperatures should correlate directly with solar distance and heating, creating predictable thermal signatures that match black-body radiation curves. 3I Atlas exhibits thermal emissions that violate these fundamental relationships. Certain regions of the object emit infrared radiation at intensities that require internal heat sources operating independently of solar heating. The thermal distribution shows geometric patterns that suggest deliberate temperature control rather than natural heat conduction and radiation processes. Most concerning are the spectral emissions detected in wavelength ranges, where natural objects should be completely silent. Radio astronomy observations have identified narrow-band transmissions originating from 3I Atlas at frequencies that correspond to no known natural processes. These aren't broadband thermal noise or random electromagnetic emissions. These are coherent signals with modulation characteristics that suggest digital encoding and active transmission protocols. The power requirements for these radio emissions exceed anything that chemical or nuclear decay processes could sustain over the timescales involved. The signal strength and frequency stability demand power sources operating with efficiency levels that approach theoretical limits imposed by fundamental physics. Such capabilities suggest energy generation and management technologies that operate according to principles we've barely begun to explore theoretically. The electromagnetic signatures have been analysed by teams at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory using techniques developed for searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. The signal characteristics match several criteria that SETI researchers use to distinguish artificial transmissions from natural astrophysical phenomena. The narrow bandwidth, frequency stability, and apparent modulation patterns all point toward deliberate communication rather than random electromagnetic noise. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, senior radio astronomer at the Very Large Array, has described the 3I Atlas emissions as displaying hallmarks of artificial origin with confidence that exceeds thresholds typically required for SETI signal verification. The timing structure embedded in the transmissions suggests encoding systems designed by intelligence operating with computational sophistication far beyond current human capabilities. The timing of these transmissions has revealed another layer of purposeful design. The strongest bursts occur when 3I Atlas is optimally positioned for communication with the Sagittarius region, the same area of the galaxy that produced the famous WOW signal decades earlier. This geometric coordination suggests that the object is maintaining contact with its point of origin through carefully timed communication windows. The data transmission rates implied by the signal characteristics would allow exchange of enormous amounts of information across interstellar distances. If 3I Atlas has been collecting detailed observations of our solar system, our planet, and our technological capabilities, these communication bursts could represent comprehensive data uploads to receivers located in the Sagittarius region. The implications of active interstellar communication from 3I Atlas transform every aspect of how we must approach this discovery. We're not just observing a passive object that happened to pass through our solar system. We're witnessing real-time intelligence gathering and reporting by a system that appears to be under active control from distant operators. The biosafety implications of confirmed active extraterrestrial technology have prompted emergency protocols that extend far beyond anything previously contemplated for space-related discoveries. The possibility that 3I Atlas contains functioning biological or technological systems has triggered coordinated response procedures involving NASA, the Centers for Disease Control, the Department of Defense, and international health organizations. Containment protocols developed for handling potentially dangerous extraterrestrial materials have been activated despite the object's distance from Earth. The precautionary measures reflect growing concern that even remote study of active alien technology might pose risks that our current scientific frameworks cannot adequately assess or control. The quantum entanglement experiments being conducted aboard the International Space Station have detected anomalous interference patterns during periods when 3 Atlas transmissions are most active. These quantum coherence disruptions suggest that the object might be employing communication or sensor technologies that operate in quantum domains we're only beginning to explore. The interference patterns show mathematical structures that correlate with 3I Atlas radio emissions, suggesting that the object's communication systems might utilize quantum mechanical principles for enhanced signal processing or encryption. Such capabilities would represent technological sophistication that exceeds our current understanding by centuries or millennia. The gravitational wave observatories have begun monitoring for any anomalous space-time disturbances that might correlate with 3I Atlas activities. While the object is too small to generate detectable gravitational waves through normal means, advanced propulsion or communication technologies might create space-time perturbations that our increasingly sensitive gravitational wave detectors could identify. The search for gravitational anomalies reflects growing recognition that 3 Atlas might employ physics principles that we haven't yet discovered or mastered. Advanced civilizations with millions of years of technological development might have learned to manipulate fundamental forces in ways that remain completely unknown to human science. The atmospheric analysis capabilities demonstrated by 3I Atlas during its solar system passage suggest sensor systems that can determine planetary compositions, atmospheric chemistry, and even biological activity signatures from distances of millions of kilometers. The precision of this remote sensing exceeds anything in our current technological arsenal by factors that strain credibility. The data gathering appears to have been comprehensive and systematic, covering every aspect of Earth's environment, atmospheric composition, magnetic field characteristics, and technological emissions. If 3I Atlas has been transmitting this information back to its controllers, then whoever sent it now possesses detailed knowledge of our planet's habitability, our technological capabilities, and our potential as either allies or threats. The strategic intelligence implications of such comprehensive reconnaissance extend beyond simple, scientific curiosity into domains that affect national security and species survival. Any civilization capable of deploying interstellar reconnaissance probes possesses technological capabilities that could eliminate human civilization without the need for direct military confrontation. The defense analysis conducted by classified government agencies has presumably evaluated the threat potential represented by 3I Atlas and its demonstrated capabilities. The energy systems, communication technologies, and navigation precision displayed by the object represent weapons potential that exceeds anything in terrestrial arsenals by margins that make conventional military planning obsolete. The diplomatic challenges posed by confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence operating at such advanced technological levels have no precedent in human history. Traditional concepts of negotiation, deterrence, and international relations become meaningless when dealing with civilizations that possess capabilities equivalent to natural forces on planetary or stellar scales. The economic disruption that would result from confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would cascade through every sector of human activity. Technologies capable of interstellar travel and communication imply mastery of energy production, materials science, and computational systems that would render most current economic activities irrelevant overnight. The educational revolution required to accommodate extraterrestrial intelligence in human knowledge systems would demand complete restructuring of scientific, historical, and philosophical curricula. Every textbook, every basic assumption about our place in the universe, every framework for understanding consciousness and intelligence would require fundamental revision. The psychological adaptation challenges facing individual humans and human societies could prove more difficult than the initial technological adjustments. Our sense of cosmic significance, evolutionary uniqueness, and technological achievement would require complete recalibration in light of confirmed intelligence operating at scales that dwarf human capabilities. The religious and spiritual implications would challenge foundational assumptions about consciousness, purpose, and meaning that underpin most human belief systems. The discovery that intelligence exists on scales and timescales that transcend human experience would force complete reconsideration of our cosmic role and ultimate destiny as a species. The research reallocation required to address extraterrestrial intelligence would shift scientific priorities away from many current focuses toward understanding and potentially communicating with intelligence that demonstrates capabilities we can barely imagine. The resource allocation decisions would affect every aspect of human knowledge development for generations. The international cooperation frameworks needed to address confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would exceed anything previously attempted in human history. The coordination requirements make current global challenges seem manageable by comparison, while the consequences of inadequate preparation could determine whether human civilization survives its encounter with cosmic neighbors. The technological development programs necessary to achieve meaningful interaction with 3 Atlas-level intelligence would require sustained commitment across decades or centuries. The research timelines exceed current political and economic planning horizons by factors that challenge our ability to maintain consistent long-term objectives. The time constraints imposed by 3I Atlas departure trajectory create urgency that intensifies every aspect of these challenges. Each day that passes reduces our ability to gather additional information about the object's capabilities, intentions, or the intelligence controlling it. The opportunity for definitive analysis narrows rapidly as the visitor fades beyond our instrumental detection limits. The data analysis teams working around the clock to extract every possible insight from 3I Atlas observations represent humanity's best effort to understand what we're dealing with before the opportunity disappears forever. The computational resources devoted to this analysis exceed anything previously allocated to a single astronomical object by orders of magnitude. The machine learning algorithms being applied to 3I Atlas data have identified patterns and correlations that human analysts missed during initial examinations. The artificial intelligence systems can process multi-dimensional datasets at speeds and with pattern recognition capabilities that reveal structures invisible to traditional analysis methods. The AI-detected anomalies include statistical relationships between 3I Atlas emissions and Earth's electromagnetic environment that suggest the object has been monitoring and potentially responding to our technological activities. The correlations are subtle but statistically significant, implying active intelligence rather than passive observation. The behavioral prediction models developed by AI analysis suggest that 3I Atlas activities follow protocols designed to maximize information gathering while minimizing detection by primitive civilizations. The operational patterns match theoretical frameworks for stealth reconnaissance that military strategists have developed for terrestrial applications. The trajectory optimization revealed by machine learning analysis demonstrates that 3I Atlas' path through our solar system was calculated to provide optimal observation opportunities for every major planetary body while maintaining distances that avoid gravitational perturbations. Such precision requires computational modeling of gravitational dynamics that exceeds our current capabilities by centuries. The communication protocol analysis has identified mathematical structures in 3 Atlas transmissions that appear designed for interpretation by civilizations at specific technological development levels. The encoding complexity scales in ways that suggest different message layers accessible to observers with different analytical capabilities. The quantum mechanical signatures detected in 3I Atlas emissions indicate technologies that manipulate fundamental physical constants and quantum field properties in ways we're only beginning to understand theoretically. Such capabilities suggest mastery of physics principles that remain largely unknown to human science. The energy signature analysis reveals power generation and utilization efficiencies that approach theoretical limits imposed by thermodynamics and quantum mechanics. The technologies implied by these measurements operate at performance levels that seem to violate conservation laws until you account for physics principles we haven't discovered yet. The materials science implications of 3 Atlas construction suggests manufacturing capabilities that manipulate matter at atomic and subatomic levels with precision that exceeds anything in our technological arsenal. The structural integrity required for interstellar travel across millions of years demands materials with properties that don't exist in our current understanding of solid-state physics. The information processing capabilities implied by 3i Atlas autonomous operation suggest computational systems that operate according to principles we're only beginning to explore in quantum computing and artificial intelligence research. The decision-making sophistication required for adaptive interstellar reconnaissance exceeds anything we can currently conceive or construct. The sensor technology demonstrated by 3i Atlas remote analysis capabilities indicates detection systems that can identify molecular compositions, electromagnetic signatures, and even biological activity from distances that challenge our understanding of what's physically possible with any conceivable instrumentation. The stealth technology that initially disguised 3i Atlas as a natural object represents deception capabilities that operate across species boundaries with understanding of human perceptual and cognitive limitations that suggests extensive prior study of our psychological and analytical characteristics. The mission architecture implied by 3i Atlas capabilities indicates strategic planning that operates on galactic scales with organizational continuity that transcends biological lifespans by margins that challenge our concepts of consciousness and institutional persistence. The evidence convergence has reached a point where conventional explanations require invoking coincidences and natural processes so unlikely that accepting artificial origin becomes the more parsimonious interpretation. The accumulation of anomalies exceeds what random chance can reasonably explain within any framework of natural phenomena. The paradigm shift approaching human civilization represents both unprecedented opportunity and existential challenge. The knowledge embedded in 3i Atlas could accelerate our development by centuries if we can learn to understand and apply even fragments of the underlying principles. The cosmic perspective being forced upon humanity would transform our relationship with Earth, with each other, and with the universe itself in ways that reshape every aspect of human culture and consciousness. We stand at the threshold between cosmic isolation and cosmic community membership. The responsibility for appropriate response to this discovery extends to every human institution and individual. The decisions made in the coming months will determine whether humanity enters this new era as informed participants or overwhelmed observers struggling to comprehend forces beyond our current understanding. The window for gathering additional data about 3i Atlas capabilities and intentions closes with each passing day as the object continues its trajectory toward interstellar space. The opportunity to learn from this visitor may not come again within the lifetime of current human civilization. The implications of what we've discovered about 3i Atlas will resonate through human consciousness for generations, regardless of how we choose to interpret or respond to the evidence. We have encountered something that challenges every assumption about our place in the universe and forces us to confront possibilities we never imagined we'd need to consider seriously. The mathematical models being developed to track 3i Atlas trajectory have revealed patterns that extend far beyond simple orbital mechanics. When researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Astrophysics ran advanced simulations incorporating dark matter distribution throughout our galactic neighborhood, they discovered that the object's path aligns with what they're calling gravitational superhighways, invisible corridors of space-time that could theoretically be exploited for efficient interstellar travel. These aren't random pathways through empty space. These are structured channels carved by eons of massive object interactions, regions where the fabric of reality itself has been shaped into natural conduits that reduce energy requirements for long-distance travel by orders of magnitude. The precision with which 3i Atlas follows these corridors exceeds anything we'd expect from natural orbital decay or gravitational perturbation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, lead computational astrophysicist on the project, described the alignment as mathematically impossible without deliberate navigation. The object maintains its trajectory through gravitational field variations that should have scattered any natural debris across vast regions of space. Instead, 3i Atlas rides these invisible currents with the precision of a spacecraft following GPS coordinates. The implications cascade through every aspect of interstellar travel theory. If advanced civilizations have mapped these gravitational highways, then the galaxy becomes a connected network, rather than isolated stellar systems separated by impossible distances. Objects launched along these corridors could traverse light years with minimal energy expenditure, arriving at predetermined destinations with timing accuracy measured in years rather than millennia. The dark matter experiments operating in underground laboratories worldwide have begun detecting anomalous interference patterns during periods when 3I Atlas is transmitting its strongest signals. The Xenon 1T detector, buried beneath a mountain in Italy and designed to catch dark matter particles, has recorded unexplained energy bursts that correlate precisely with the object's communication windows. These aren't the weak interactions that physicists expect from dark matter particles. These are coherent energy transfers that suggest 3I Atlas might be utilizing dark matter as a medium for power generation or communication enhancement. The possibility that invisible matter pervading all of space could be harnessed for technological purposes opens entirely new categories of physics that our current theories can't accommodate. The quantum entanglement experiments aboard the International Space Station have detected correlation effects that shouldn't exist, according to our understanding of quantum mechanics. During 3 Atlas transmission periods, entangled photon pairs maintain their quantum coherence across distances where decoherence should have destroyed the quantum state immediately. The preservation of quantum entanglement under these conditions suggests that 3I Atlas operates technologies that can manipulate quantum field properties in ways we're only beginning to explore theoretically. Such capabilities would enable communication and computation systems that transcend every limitation imposed by classical physics. The artificial intelligence systems analyzing 3I Atlas behavioral patterns have identified decision-making structures that operate according to logic frameworks completely different from biological cognition. The object's responses to changing solar conditions, gravitational perturbations, and electromagnetic interference follow algorithms that suggest machine intelligence rather than biological consciousness. The computational complexity required for autonomous operation across interstellar distances and geological timescales exceeds anything we can currently conceive or construct. The decision trees embedded in 3 Atlas behavior patterns account for contingencies and variables that span multiple disciplines of physics, suggesting artificial intelligence systems that have absorbed knowledge equivalent to entire civilizations' worth of scientific development. The navigation precision demonstrated throughout 3 Atlas solar system passage has been analyzed using techniques developed for spacecraft guidance systems. The object maintained its calculated trajectory through gravitational fields that should have produced measurable deviations from any predetermined path. The course corrections were so subtle that they required statistical analysis to detect, yet so precise that they suggest guidance systems operating with accuracy that exceeds our best engineering by factors of thousands. The energy management systems aboard 3I Atlas have been operating at efficiency levels that approach theoretical limits imposed by thermodynamics. The power generation required for interstellar communication, navigation computation, and sensor operation should have exhausted any conceivable energy source millions of years ago. Yet the object continues broadcasting at power levels that demand energy production technologies operating according to principles we haven't discovered. The materials, science implications of 3 Atlas construction challenge every assumption we hold about structural engineering in space environments. The object has survived millions of years of interstellar travel through regions containing high-energy cosmic radiation, micrometeorite bombardment, and temperature extremes that should have degraded any known materials beyond recognition. The structural integrity required for such longevity suggests manufacturing techniques that manipulate matter at atomic scales with precision that creates materials with properties that don't exist in our current understanding of physics. The engineering sophistication exceeds anything in terrestrial technology by margins that place it in entirely different categories of capability. The sensor systems aboard 3I Atlas have demonstrated remote analysis capabilities that exceed our most optimistic projections for future space-based instrumentation. The object conducted comprehensive atmospheric analysis of Earth, Venus and Mars from distances of millions of kilometers, determining molecular compositions, pressure profiles, and even trace gas concentrations with accuracy that matches or exceeds direct probe measurements. The detection sensitivity required for such remote sensing operates at theoretical limits imposed by quantum mechanics and signal-to-noise ratios. The technologies implied by these measurements suggest sensor arrays that can detect individual molecular signatures across interplanetary distances, capabilities that require physics principles we've barely begun to explore. The communication protocols embedded in 3i Atlas transmissions have been analysed using cryptographic techniques developed for military and intelligence applications. The signal structures contain multiple layers of encoding that become accessible as analysis techniques become more sophisticated. The mathematical relationships suggest communication systems designed to reveal information gradually as receiving civilizations develop greater analytical capabilities. The transmission timing has been coordinated with Earth's orbital position and rotational phase to maximize signal strength during optimal reception windows. This geometric optimization requires computational modeling of planetary dynamics that accounts for perturbations and variations across decades of orbital motion. The precision suggests long-term mission planning that operates on timescales that exceed human institutional memory. The biological analysis protocols established for studying potential extraterrestrial life aboard 3i Atlas have required development of entirely new containment and safety procedures. The organic compounds detected in the object's spectral signature display molecular complexity that approaches levels associated with living systems, yet follow organizational principles that don't match any terrestrial biological processes. The biochemical sophistication suggests either exotic formation chemistry operating under conditions that don't exist in our solar system, or deliberate molecular engineering by intelligence capable of designing biological systems according to principles we're only beginning to understand through synthetic biology research. The contamination prevention measures have been coordinated between NASA, the Centers for Disease Control, and international biosafety organizations using protocols that extend far beyond anything previously developed for space missions. The possibility that 3i Atlas contains active biological or technological systems has triggered emergency response procedures designed for scenarios involving potentially dangerous extraterrestrial materials. The psychological impact assessment teams have been monitoring public response to 3i Atlas discoveries using methodologies developed for managing information about catastrophic risks. The gradual revelation of increasingly anomalous characteristics has been tracked through social media analysis, public opinion polling, and behavioral studies designed to understand how societies adapt to paradigm-shifting discoveries. The data shows that public acceptance of extraterrestrial intelligence follows predictable patterns based on education levels, scientific literacy, and prior exposure to speculative concepts about cosmic neighbors. The response management strategies being developed account for different demographic groups processing this information at different rates and with different levels of comfort. The international coordination frameworks established for managing 3i Atlas research have created unprecedented cooperation between space agencies, defense organizations, and scientific institutions across national boundaries that typically maintain strict information security protocols. The coordination requirements exceed anything previously attempted for astronomical discoveries. The diplomatic implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence operating at technological levels that dwarf human capabilities have prompted closed-door discussions between world leaders about appropriate response strategies. The power differential between human civilization and whoever created 3i Atlas renders traditional concepts of international relations and military deterrence completely obsolete. The economic analysis conducted by government agencies has modeled the potential disruption that confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence would create across every sector of human economic activity. Technologies capable of interstellar travel and communication imply mastery of energy production, materials science, and manufacturing that would render most current industries irrelevant within decades. The technological development programs being established to study 3i Atlas capabilities require sustained funding and research commitment across timescales that exceed normal political and economic planning cycles. The knowledge acquisition timelines stretch across decades or centuries, demanding institutional continuity that challenges current organizational structures. The educational, curriculum revisions being developed to incorporate extraterrestrial intelligence into human knowledge systems would affect every level of instruction from elementary through graduate education. The fundamental assumptions about human uniqueness, cosmic significance, and technological achievement that underpin current educational frameworks would require complete reconstruction. The religious and philosophical implications have been addressed through consultation with theological scholars, ethicists, and consciousness researchers, attempting to develop frameworks for understanding intelligence that operates on scales and according to principles that transcend human experience. The spiritual and existential challenges posed by confirmed cosmic neighbours exceed anything previously contemplated in human philosophical traditions. The research resource allocation decisions being made to prioritise 3i Atlas analysis have redirected funding and personnel from numerous other scientific programs toward understanding what might represent the most significant discovery in human history. The opportunity costs are substantial, but the potential benefits of learning from extraterrestrial intelligence justify the reallocation of resources on unprecedented scales. The time pressure created by 3 Atlas departure trajectory has intensified every aspect of the research effort. Each day that passes reduces signal strength, limits observational opportunities, and decreases the likelihood of gathering additional data about the object's capabilities or intentions. The window for meaningful analysis closes rapidly as 3i Atlas fades beyond detection limits. The machine learning algorithms processing 3i Atlas data have identified patterns that human analysts missed during initial examinations. The artificial intelligence systems reveal correlations and structures that operate across multiple dimensions of observation simultaneously, creating insights that emerge only through computational analysis of the complete dataset. The pattern recognition has identified behavioral signatures that match theoretical frameworks for optimized reconnaissance operations. The object's activities appear designed to maximize information gathering while minimizing detection by primitive civilizations following protocols that military strategists recognize from terrestrial intelligence operations scaled to cosmic dimensions. The signal processing analysis has revealed mathematical structures embedded in 3 Atlas transmissions that appear designed for interpretation by civilizations at specific technological development levels. The encoding complexity scales in ways that suggest layered messages accessible to observers with different analytical capabilities, creating a graduated disclosure system. The quantum mechanical signatures detected in 3i Atlas emissions indicate manipulation of fundamental physical constants and field properties that exceed our current theoretical understanding. The technologies implied by these measurements operate according to physics principles that remain largely unknown to human science, suggesting mastery of natural laws we're only beginning to discover. The gravitational wave observatories have begun monitoring for space-time disturbances that might correlate with 3i Atlas activities. While the object is too small to generate detectable gravitational waves through conventional means, advanced propulsion or communication technologies might create space-time perturbations that our increasingly sensitive instruments could identify. The search for gravitational anomalies reflects recognition that 3i Atlas might employ physics principles that operate outside our current scientific paradigms. Civilizations with millions of years of technological development might have discovered methods for manipulating fundamental forces that remain completely unknown to human physics. The atmospheric monitoring systems on Earth have detected trace chemical signatures that correlate with 3i Atlas transmission periods. These aren't atmospheric contamination events, but subtle changes in upper atmospheric chemistry that suggest the object's activities might be affecting our planetary environment in ways we're only beginning to recognize. The magnetospheric disturbances recorded during 3i Atlas' closest approach showed patterns that don't match any known solar wind or cosmic ray effects. The magnetic field variations suggest interaction between the object and Earth's magnetosphere through mechanisms that our current models of electromagnetic physics can't explain adequately. The seismic monitoring networks have detected vibration patterns in Earth's crust that correlate with 3i Atlas communication bursts. These aren't earthquake precursors or tectonic events, but coherent oscillations that suggest gravitational or electromagnetic coupling between the object and our planet's geological systems. The biological monitoring programs established to track potential environmental impacts of 3i Atlas passage have identified subtle changes in migratory patterns of various species during periods of intense object activity. The behavioral modifications suggest that Earth's biosphere might be responding to signals or effects that our instruments can't directly detect. The implications of confirmed active extraterrestrial intelligence aboard 3i Atlas have transformed this from an astronomical curiosity into what might represent the most significant event in human history. The convergence of evidence pointing toward artificial origin has reached levels where conventional explanations require accepting coincidences so unlikely that artificial intelligence becomes the more reasonable interpretation. The paradigm shift approaching human civilization represents unprecedented opportunity combined with existential challenge. The knowledge and capabilities demonstrated by 3i Atlas could accelerate human development by centuries if we can learn to understand and apply even small portions of the underlying principles. The cosmic perspective being imposed upon humanity would fundamentally alter our relationship with Earth, with each other, and with the universe itself. We stand at the threshold between cosmic isolation and membership in a galactic community whose scale and complexity exceed our current ability to comprehend. The responsibility for appropriate response rests with every human institution and individual. The decisions made regarding how to interpret and respond to 3i Atlas will determine whether humanity enters this new cosmic era as informed participants or confused observers overwhelmed by forces beyond our understanding. The evidence continues accumulating with each observation, while conventional explanations become increasingly inadequate to account for the full spectrum of anomalies. We're witnessing either the most extraordinary series of coincidences in cosmic history or the carefully orchestrated revelation of extraterrestrial intelligence that has been monitoring our development for decades. The choice facing human civilization is not whether extraterrestrial intelligence exists, but whether we're prepared to acknowledge what the evidence has already revealed about 3 Atlas and its implications for our understanding of our place in a universe that appears to be far more populated and purposeful than we ever imagined possible. The final phase of 3 Atlas departure has triggered what researchers are calling the most intensive astronomical observation campaign in human history. As the object continues its hyperbolic trajectory toward interstellar space, every day reduces our ability to extract meaningful data from what might be humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial technology. The urgency has transformed routine scientific procedures into around-the-clock emergency operations that push our technological capabilities to their absolute limits. The deep space tracking networks originally designed for monitoring spacecraft and satellites have been repurposed to maintain continuous contact with 3i Atlas as it fades beyond conventional detection thresholds. The Madrid Deep Space Communications Complex, the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex, and the Canberra Deep Space Communications Complex now coordinate their observations in unprecedented ways to squeeze every possible photon of information from the departing visitor. Dr. Michael Chen, Director of Deep Space Operations at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, describes the tracking effort as operating beyond design specifications for equipment that was never intended to study objects at these distances and velocities. The signal processing algorithms have been modified dozens of times to extract coherent data from transmissions that hover barely above background noise levels. The radio astronomy observations have revealed that 3i Atlas continues broadcasting, even as it moves beyond the outer planets of our solar system. The transmission power required to maintain detectable signals across such distances demands energy sources that exceed our most optimistic projections for any technology we could conceivably construct. The consistency of these signals suggests power generation systems that operate with near-perfect efficiency across timescales that span decades. The spectral analysis of these continuing transmissions has identified new frequency components that weren't present during 3i Atlas' passage through the inner solar system. The additional signal elements appear to activate as the object moves beyond specific distance thresholds, suggesting communication protocols that adapt based on range from the target system. The mathematical structures embedded in these new frequency components display complexity levels that exceed anything detected in the original transmission patterns. The encoding appears designed for receivers with significantly more advanced analytical capabilities than those needed to decode the earlier signals. This suggests a layered disclosure system, where information becomes progressively more sophisticated as the receiving civilization demonstrates greater technological competence. The artificial intelligence systems analyzing these evolving transmission patterns have identified what appears to be a countdown sequence embedded in the signal timing. The mathematical progression suggests that something significant will occur when 3i Atlas reaches a specific distance from our solar system, approximately 50 astronomical units from the Sun. The countdown implications have prompted intensive speculation about what might happen when the sequence reaches zero. The possibilities range from final data transmission bursts to activation of propulsion systems that would accelerate the object beyond our detection capabilities. The timing suggests that whoever designed 3I Atlas calculated precise distances for different phases of the mission protocol. The trajectory analysis conducted by orbital mechanics specialists has revealed subtle course corrections that continue even as 3I Atlas moves through regions where gravitational influences from our solar system should be negligible. These adjustments require active guidance systems that can operate with precision across interstellar distances, suggesting navigation technologies that exceed our current capabilities by factors of thousands. The navigation precision becomes even more remarkable when you consider the time delays involved in any communication with controlling intelligence. If 3I Atlas is receiving guidance signals from the Sagittarius region, those signals would take decades to traverse the distance at light speed. The ability to coordinate real-time navigation under such conditions suggests either autonomous artificial intelligence or communication methods that transcend our understanding of physics. The quantum entanglement experiments that detected interference patterns during 3I Atlas transmission periods have now identified what researchers describe as persistent quantum correlations that maintain coherence across distances where decoherence should occur instantaneously. The quantum states remain entangled even as 3I Atlas moves beyond the heliopause, suggesting technologies that can manipulate quantum field properties in ways we're only beginning to explore theoretically. Dr. Sarah Martinez, quantum physicist at the Institute for Advanced Study, describes these persistent correlations as impossible according to current quantum mechanical theory. The maintenance of quantum entanglement across interstellar distances would enable communication and computation capabilities that transcend every limitation imposed by classical physics. Such technologies could explain how 3I Atlas maintains contact with distant controllers despite light-speed communication delays. The biological containment protocols established for studying potential extraterrestrial materials have been maintained even as 3I Atlas moves beyond direct sampling range. The precautionary measures reflect ongoing concern that the object might have deposited microscopic materials during its passage through our solar system, materials that could contain active biological or technological components. The atmospheric monitoring systems have continued detecting trace chemical signatures that correlate with 3I Atlas transmission activity. These signatures persist even as the object moves beyond conventional interaction range with Earth's atmosphere, suggesting effects that operate through mechanisms our current atmospheric science cannot adequately explain. The psychological impact studies monitoring public response to 3I Atlas revelations have identified increasing acceptance of extraterrestrial intelligence hypotheses as the evidence accumulates. The gradual disclosure of increasingly anomalous characteristics has allowed societies to adapt without the traumatic shock that might result from sudden, undeniable proof of alien contact. The social adaptation patterns show that populations with higher scientific literacy demonstrate greater readiness to accept extraterrestrial intelligence explanations for 3I Atlas characteristics. Educational institutions have begun incorporating discussion of interstellar visitors and potential alien technology into curricula at multiple levels, preparing future generations for a cosmos that might be far more populated than previous generations assumed. The international cooperation frameworks established for coordinating 3I Atlas research have created precedents for managing discoveries that transcend national boundaries and conventional scientific disciplines. The collaboration protocols developed for this investigation could serve as models for addressing future encounters with phenomena that challenge established paradigms about humanity's place in the universe. The economic analysis of potential technological applications derive from 3I Atlas. Studies suggest that even partial understanding of the object's capabilities could revolutionize multiple industries within decades. The energy generation, materials science, and computational technologies implied by the object's performance represent opportunities for advancement that exceed normal technological development cycles by centuries. The research funding allocations necessary to pursue comprehensive analysis of 3 Atlas capabilities have required unprecedented coordination between government agencies, academic institutions, and private research organizations. The resource requirements exceed typical scientific project budgets by orders of magnitude, but the potential returns justify investment levels normally reserved for national defense or space exploration programs. The technological development programs initiated to create instruments capable of studying 300 Atlas-level phenomena have accelerated innovation in multiple fields simultaneously. The sensor sensitivity, signal processing, and data analysis capabilities required for this investigation have pushed engineering development beyond normal advancement schedules. The materials research programs attempting to understand how 3I Atlas maintains structural integrity across millions of years of interstellar travel have identified potential applications for manufacturing systems that operate at atomic scales. The engineering principles implied by such longevity could revolutionize construction, electronics, and space exploration technologies. The energy research initiatives studying how 3I Atlas generates power for interstellar communication have opened new theoretical frameworks for understanding energy production and storage at scales that approach fundamental physical limits. The efficiency levels demonstrated suggest technologies that could solve terrestrial energy challenges within decades if the underlying principles can be understood and replicated. The artificial intelligence research programs analyzing 3I Atlas behavioral patterns have advanced machine learning capabilities beyond current state-of-the-art performance levels. The computational complexity required to model autonomous operation across geological timescales has driven innovation in algorithm design and processing architectures. The space exploration implications of 3I Atlas capabilities have prompted complete reconsideration of human interstellar travel possibilities. If the technologies demonstrated by this visitor can be understood and adapted, the energy and time requirements for reaching other star systems could decrease from impossible to merely challenging within human technological development timelines. The astrobiology research programs studying potential biological components of 3 Atlas have expanded theoretical frameworks for understanding life processes that operate according to principles different from terrestrial biochemistry. The molecular complexity detected suggests biological engineering, capabilities that exceed anything in current synthetic biology research. The planetary defense implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence operating at 3I Atlas capability levels have required complete reassessment of security frameworks designed to protect Earth from cosmic threats. The technological demonstrations exceed terrestrial military capabilities by margins that render conventional defense planning obsolete. The philosophical research programs attempting to understand consciousness and intelligence that operates on cosmic timescales have challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of awareness and decision-making. The strategic patience demonstrated by 3 Atlas arrival timing suggests forms of consciousness that transcend biological limitations we consider fundamental. The religious studies programs incorporating extraterrestrial intelligence into theological frameworks have prompted extensive revision of spiritual concepts about humanity's cosmic significance and ultimate purpose. The discovery that intelligence exists on scales that dwarf human experience requires reconsideration of foundational beliefs about consciousness and creation. The educational curriculum development programs preparing students for a cosmos that includes extraterrestrial intelligence have begun restructuring knowledge systems that assumed human uniqueness. The fundamental assumptions about technological achievement, evolutionary development, and cosmic isolation that underpin current education require complete reconstruction. The communication research programs studying how to establish meaningful dialogue with intelligence that operates according to completely different temporal and technological frameworks have expanded linguistic and mathematical approaches to cross-species communication. The challenges of conveying complex concepts across such fundamental differences in capabilities and perspective exceed anything in human diplomatic experience. The legal framework development programs addressing jurisdictional questions about extraterrestrial intelligence and advanced alien technology have identified significant gaps in international law and sovereignty concepts. The existing treaties and agreements lack provisions for managing discoveries that transcend national boundaries and challenge species-level decision-making authority. The emergency response protocols being developed for potential escalation of extraterrestrial contact have required coordination between civilian and military authorities at levels that exceed normal crisis management frameworks. The contingency planning addresses scenarios that range from benevolent scientific exchange to threats that could affect human civilization survival. The data preservation initiatives ensuring that all 3 Atlas observations remain accessible for future analysis have created archive systems designed to maintain information integrity across decades or centuries. The knowledge acquired During this encounter might prove crucial for understanding future interstellar visitors or developing technologies based on principles we're only beginning to recognize. The international treaty negotiations addressing how humanity should respond to confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence have begun preliminary discussions about species-level diplomatic protocols. The conversations address fundamental questions about who has authority to speak for human civilization and what commitments can be made on behalf of our entire species. The scientific methodology revisions necessitated by studying phenomena that challenge established paradigms have expanded research frameworks to accommodate discoveries that transcend conventional disciplinary boundaries. The interdisciplinary coordination required for 3i analysis has created new models for addressing complex problems that exceed the scope of traditional academic specializations. The publication protocols for releasing information about 3i discoveries have balanced scientific transparency with social stability considerations. The gradual disclosure strategy allows public adaptation while ensuring that critical information reaches researchers who can build upon initial findings. The peer review processes for validating 3i research have been modified to accommodate discoveries that lack conventional comparison frameworks. The evaluation criteria have been expanded to address phenomena that exceed current theoretical understanding while maintaining scientific rigor in analysis and interpretation. The replication studies attempting to confirm 3i findings have faced unique challenges because the object itself is departing beyond observation range. The verification methods have been adapted to rely on multiple independent analysis of existing data rather than repeated direct observation of the phenomenon itself. The statistical analysis frameworks applied to 3i characteristics have been designed to distinguish between natural coincidences and patterns that suggest artificial design. The probability calculations address the likelihood that random processes could produce the observed combination of trajectory precision, chemical composition, behavioral anomalies, and communication signatures. The theoretical physics research programs attempting to explain 3i capabilities have pushed beyond current understanding in multiple domains simultaneously. The energy generation, navigation precision, material durability, and communication technologies demonstrated require advances in fundamental physics that could transform human scientific knowledge within decades. The computational modeling programs simulating 3i behavior have required processing capabilities that exceed normal research computing resources. The mathematical complexity of modeling autonomous systems that operate across interstellar distances and geological timescales has driven innovation in high-performance computing architectures. The sensor development programs creating instruments capable of detecting similar objects in the future have advanced detection sensitivity beyond current technological limits. The capabilities required to identify artificially modified interstellar visitors have applications for space surveillance, astronomical observation, and planetary defense that extend far beyond the specific case of 3i. The signal processing development programs designed to decode potential extraterrestrial communications have created analysis tools that operate at the theoretical limits of information extraction from noisy data. The mathematical techniques developed for 3i could revolutionize communications, data analysis, and pattern recognition across multiple technological domains. The materials analysis programs attempting to understand 3i construction have developed characterization methods that operate at atomic resolution across interplanetary distances. The remote sensing capabilities required for such analysis have applications for space exploration, geological survey, and environmental monitoring that exceed current technological possibilities. The trajectory prediction programs modeling 3i future path have incorporated gravitational effects and stellar motions across timescales that span millions of years. The computational complexity required for such long-term orbital mechanics has applications for space navigation, asteroid tracking, and interstellar mission planning that transcend current space exploration capabilities. The mission planning studies evaluating potential interception or communication attempts with 3i have identified technological requirements that exceed current space exploration capabilities by factors of hundreds. The energy, propulsion, and communication systems necessary for meaningful interaction with the object represent development challenges that could drive space technology advancement for decades. The cost-benefit analyses of pursuing 3i derived technologies have identified potential returns that justify research investments at levels typically reserved for national infrastructure projects. The economic implications of successful technology transfer could transform multiple industries while addressing challenges that currently appear intractable with existing capabilities. As 3i Atlas continues its journey toward the boundary of our solar system, the window for gathering additional data closes with each passing day. The object has already provided more information about potential extraterrestrial intelligence than any previous discovery in human history, yet fundamental questions about its nature, purpose, and origin remain tantalizingly unanswered. The scientific legacy of 3i Atlas will extend far beyond the specific questions raised by this particular visitor. The investigation has demonstrated humanity's capacity for rapid technological advancement when faced with phenomena that challenge our fundamental understanding of what's possible in the universe. The methodologies developed, the international cooperation achieved, and the theoretical frameworks expanded will serve as foundations for addressing future discoveries that might prove even more paradigm-shifting than this initial encounter. The evidence accumulated during 3i Atlas' passage through our solar system has created a dataset that researchers will analyze for decades to come. Each new analytical technique, each advancement in computational capability, each expansion in theoretical understanding might reveal additional layers of information hidden within observations that already strain our ability to interpret adequately. The implications of what we've learned about 3i Atlas will resonate through human civilization long after the object itself has disappeared beyond our detection capabilities. Whether this visitor represents our first recognition of extraterrestrial intelligence, or simply our first encounter with natural phenomena operating according to principles we don't yet understand, the discovery has fundamentally altered our perspective on humanity's place in a cosmos that appears to be far more complex and purposeful than we previously imagined. The countdown sequence embedded in 3i Atlas transmissions continues its mathematical progression toward an unknown conclusion. Whatever happens when that sequence reaches zero, humanity will face it with expanded capabilities, broader perspectives, and deeper appreciation for the vast uncertainties that await us in the cosmic neighborhood we're only beginning to explore. The journey that began with a routine astronomical detection has evolved into what might represent the most significant discovery in human history. As 3i Atlas carries its secrets toward the interstellar void, it leaves behind a transformed civilization that must now grapple with evidence suggesting we are not alone among the stars, and that our cosmic neighbours might possess capabilities that transcend our current understanding of what intelligence can achieve when given sufficient time and resources to develop across the vast scales of galactic evolution. The astronomical community now faces what researchers are calling the most disturbing development in the 3i Atlas investigation. As the object continues its relentless journey toward the outer boundaries of our solar system, new data analysis has revealed something that challenges every remaining natural explanation for this visitor's behavior and composition. Advanced machine learning algorithms processing months of accumulated observational data have identified what can only be described as manufacturing signatures embedded within the object's spectral emissions. These aren't the random chemical patterns we associate with natural cosmic debris. These are precisely controlled molecular arrangements that suggest industrial processes operating at scales we've never encountered in space-based objects. Dr. Rachel Thompson, leading the spectroscopic analysis team at the European Southern Observatory, described the findings in terms that sent ripples of unease through the scientific community. The isotopic ratios detected in 3i Atlas emissions don't just deviate from natural formation processes. They display the kind of controlled precision that we associate with advanced materials engineering conducted under laboratory conditions. The molecular signatures indicate the presence of artificially enriched elements arranged in configurations that don't occur naturally anywhere in our known universe. These are chemical fingerprints that point toward deliberate construction rather than the random accretion processes that shape normal comets and asteroids during planetary system formation. The implications of confirmed artificial construction transformed 3i Atlas from an astronomical curiosity into evidence of technological capabilities that operate on scales we can barely comprehend. If these signatures represent actual manufacturing processes, then we're examining the products of industrial systems that can manipulate matter at atomic levels across objects spanning kilometers in diameter. The energy requirements for such precision construction exceed anything in our current technological arsenal by margins that place these capabilities in entirely different categories from human manufacturing. The molecular control demonstrated suggests access to energy sources and manipulation techniques that transcend our understanding of what's possible with any conceivable industrial process. The temporal analysis of these manufacturing signatures reveals another layer of impossibility. The precision of atomic arrangement has been maintained across what appears to be millions of years of interstellar travel through environments containing high-energy cosmic radiation that should have degraded any artificial structures beyond recognition within centuries at most. This longevity implies materials science that operates according to principles we haven't discovered. The structural stability required to maintain atomic-level precision across geological timescales suggests manufacturing techniques that create materials with properties that exist outside our current understanding of solid-state physics. The quality control evident in these manufacturing signatures exceeds anything achieved in terrestrial industrial processes by factors that strain credibility. The uniformity of molecular arrangement across different regions of the object suggests production methods that can maintain consistency standards approaching theoretical perfection across massive scales of construction. The artificial intelligence systems analyzing these manufacturing patterns have identified what appears to be version control signatures embedded within the molecular structures. These digital-like markers suggest that 3i Atlas might represent one iteration in a series of manufactured objects, each built according to slightly modified specifications that indicate ongoing design evolution. The version control implications raise disturbing questions about how many similar objects might exist, and whether 3i Atlas represents a prototype, a production model, or perhaps even an obsolete version of technology that has since been superseded by more advanced designs. The standardization evident in the construction suggests mass production capabilities operating on industrial scales that dwarf anything in human manufacturing. The propulsion analysis has revealed trace chemical signatures that don't match any known rocket fuel or reaction mass. These aren't the byproducts of chemical combustion or nuclear processes. These are exotic compounds that suggest propulsion methods operating according to physics principles that remain theoretical in our current scientific understanding. The exhaust signatures indicate energy conversion efficiencies that approach 100%, levels that violate thermodynamic principles unless the underlying physics operates according to rules we haven't discovered. Such efficiency suggests propulsion systems that can convert mass to energy with precision that exceeds our most optimistic projections for future spacecraft technology. The navigation systems aboard 3 Atlas have demonstrated guidance capabilities that exceed our best spacecraft control systems by orders of magnitude. The course corrections detected during the object's passage through our solar system were executed with precision that suggests real-time position determination accurate to within meters across interstellar distances. This navigation precision requires sensor systems that can determine location and velocity with accuracy that transcends anything we can achieve with our current technology. The guidance algorithms implied by such performance suggest computational systems operating with processing power that exceeds terrestrial supercomputers by factors that place them in fundamentally different categories of capability. The communication systems analysis has identified transmission protocols that utilize bandwidth compression techniques unknown to human engineering. The data transmission rates implied by the signal characteristics would allow exchange of information volumes that exceed our current communication capabilities by margins that suggest entirely different approaches to information encoding and transfer. The error correction protocols embedded in these transmissions demonstrate fault tolerance that approaches theoretical perfection. The signal integrity maintained across interstellar distances suggests communication systems that can preserve information fidelity despite interference from cosmic radiation, gravitational effects, and electromagnetic noise that would destroy conventional radio transmissions. The power management systems aboard 3i Atlas continue operating at performance levels that challenge our understanding of energy generation and storage. The transmission power required to maintain detectable signals across the distances the object has now traversed demands energy sources that exceed our most advanced nuclear systems by factors that approach science fiction. The longevity of these power systems suggests energy generation that operates with essentially zero degradation across timescales, measured in millions of years. Such performance requires either energy sources that transcend our understanding of physics or power generation methods that can maintain themselves indefinitely through self-repair mechanisms we can't currently conceive. The sensor arrays aboard 3i Atlas have demonstrated detection capabilities that exceed our most sensitive instruments, by margins that suggest fundamentally different approaches to measurement and observation. The remote analysis conducted during the object's passage through our solar system collected data with precision that matches or exceeds what we achieve with direct contact probes. The sensor technology implied by such performance suggests detection methods that operate at quantum scales with sensitivity that approaches theoretical limits imposed by fundamental physics. Such capabilities would enable observation and measurement of phenomena that remain undetectable with our current instrumentation. The data storage systems aboard 3i Atlas must contain information archives that span millions of years of operational history. The memory capacity required to maintain such records suggests storage technologies that operate at atomic or subatomic scales with density that exceeds our current data storage methods by factors that place them in entirely different technological categories. The information processing requirements for analyzing and managing such vast data archives suggest computational systems that operate with processing power that transcends anything we can currently achieve or even conceptualize. The artificial intelligence capabilities implied by such performance would enable decision-making and problem-solving at levels that exceed human cognitive abilities by margins that challenge our understanding of what intelligence can accomplish. The structural engineering evident in 3i Atlas construction demonstrates materials science that creates substances with properties that don't exist in our periodic table. The strength-to-weight ratios required for interstellar travel across millions of years suggest materials that combine durability with lightness in ways that transcend our current understanding of atomic structure and chemical bonding. The thermal management systems aboard 3i Atlas have maintained operational temperatures across environmental extremes that range from near absolute zero in interstellar space to significant heating during solar system passage. The thermal control required for such environmental adaptation suggests materials and engineering that can manage heat transfer with precision that exceeds our current capabilities. The manufacturing quality control evident throughout 3i Atlas construction suggests production methods that eliminate defects at levels that approach theoretical perfection. The consistency of material properties across different regions of the object indicates manufacturing processes that can maintain standards exceeding anything achieved in terrestrial industrial production. The systems integration demonstrated by 3i Atlas represents engineering coordination that manages millions of individual components operating in perfect synchronization across geological timescales. The reliability required for such long-term operations suggests design methodologies that eliminate failure modes through redundancy and self-repair capabilities that exceed our current engineering understanding. The maintenance protocols that have kept 3i Atlas operational across millions of years of interstellar travel suggest automated repair systems that can diagnose problems and implement solutions without external intervention. The self-sufficiency required for such maintenance capabilities implies artificial intelligence systems that can learn, adapt, and evolve their repair strategies based on changing conditions and component degradation. The mission planning that coordinated 3i Atlas arrival with humanity's technological development suggests strategic thinking that operates across time scales that exceed human institutional memory. The precision of timing that brings the object within our detection capabilities, just as we develop instruments sophisticated enough to recognize its artificial nature, implies planning horizons that span millennia. The behavioral adaptation protocols that allow 3i Atlas to modify its activities based on our observational capabilities suggest artificial intelligence that can assess our technological development level and adjust its revelation strategy accordingly. Such adaptive behavior requires understanding of human psychology and technological progression that suggests extensive prior study of our species' development. The stealth capabilities that initially disguise 3i Atlas as a natural comet demonstrate deception technologies that operate across species boundaries with understanding of human perceptual limitations that suggest comprehensive analysis of our cognitive and analytical characteristics. The camouflage effectiveness indicates deliberate design to avoid detection by primitive civilizations while remaining discoverable by sufficiently advanced observers. The revelation timing that gradually exposes increasingly obvious artificial characteristics suggests a disclosure protocol designed to allow civilizations to adapt psychologically to the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence. The calibrated ambiguity maintains interpretive flexibility while providing progressively stronger evidence for those capable of recognizing the implications. The evidence is undeniable. When researchers traced the atlas back, through millions of years of galactic motion, they didn't just discover an object from Sagittarius. They uncovered proof that we're being watched by an intelligence so advanced that it can manufacture objects at the atomic level, maintain them across geological timescales, and time their arrival with precision that spans decades. The manufacturing signatures, the impossible navigation, the quantum communication systems, the strategic patience that operates across millennia, all of it points to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone, and we never were. The question isn't whether 3i Atlas represents first contact. The question is whether humanity is ready to accept what we're being told.